So yeah, we're sitting here with David, who came out for an official Stones and Bones ceremony, which we're going to get into. But then you came to the gym Friday night and trained with the team and hung out and kicked it. And you're just instantly one of the homies, dude.
Well, it's a very welcoming place. I'd called my wife the day after, so Saturday, and I told her, I was like, I've just never met people like this before. I said, not where we're from. I feel like there's a lot of just hate and discontent and disdain on our side of the country, which I'm from a place called Waynesville, North Carolina, which is way up in the Appalachian Mountains in western North Carolina. And it's just, I've never been anywhere, and this could be attributed to me, myself, just walking around most of my life, putting off bad shit to other people.
Yeah.
But I've never found a group of people where everyone was coming up like, dude, I had people offering me like, well, do you need a place to offer me like, do you need a place to stay? Do you need this? Do you need that? And I'm like, well, I've known you for 30 fucking minutes. And
yeah, but bro, just like my wife said, and my wife actually called his wife. I don't know if you guys know that. Because Jenny met him in the parking lot. I was in here recording last week's episode.
Okay.
And he came up and stopped by and just said, hey, is Greg around? I'd like to shake his hand. And Jenny goes, well, he's actually inside recording right now, but blah, blah, blah. I'm talking to him for a minute. And then she called me afterwards and goes, I like that dude.
Mm-hmm.
He's a good one. Mm-hmm. And like I told you, David, I have people stop by here sometimes.
I can imagine, yeah.
And it's not a regular occurrence, but
yeah.
It's happened a handful of times where it's like they should probably be fucking wheeled to the fucking cuckoo bin.
It's what you would like classify as like a true right-wing wacko that's like, dude, I love this,
That's right. Yeah, like I got the whole fucking scheme and maneuver of the political elite and blah, 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 blah.
Yeah.
And I want you to hop on board with me and help me take over this. And it's just like, get the fuck out of here.
Dude, it's fucking weird, man. Like I came here and he's been like, dude, that guy's been here. Like, what was that guy the last time? Where
for like 4 hours.
Yeah, and like going upstairs and just being a fucking weirdo.
Yeah, yeah.
And
and bro, like, so one time, and I think this is the one you're talking, the dude that was like 500 pounds?
Yes.
Yeah. He needed to talk to GregAnderson.
Yeah.
Right? And I'm just like, okay. And I go out there. And it was 10 minutes before class starts.
Yeah.
Kids class.
And I think that he thought like, dude, we're going to sit down in the studio and fucking record an episode because I got information, you know? Even if you did have information, bro, I don't know if I can call it work, but I got something to do in 10 minutes.
Yeah, yeah.
And so I said, bro, I got a couple minutes. You can tell me like why you stopped by, but I literally have a commitment that starts at 5 p.m.
Which is probably more important.
Yeah. And he's like, oh, well, listen, and like got super dramatic and started telling me about all this shit. And then I trained kids. Then I trained adults, and then we rolled for 30 minutes. Then we cleaned them. Like now it's encroaching on 8 o'clock, and we look out, and he's still meandering in the parking lot.
Yeah, and if
I was waiting for you to wrap up because we got stuff to talk about.
No, dude, we're doing jujitsu. Put a fucking gi on and get on the mats, or else.
Yeah, well, and that was the thing is like when I come by here, the first day and talk to your wife on the parking lot, it wasn't because I needed something from you. The only thing that I needed was to tell you, be like, hey man, you played a part in this crazy sequence of events that's brought me damn near 3,000 miles across the country. And you were just like a piece in a puzzle.
Fuck yeah.
And I just really wanted you to know. I really felt conveyed for you to know that just as much as he was a part of it, and every other little person and thing has been a part of that, And I was like, I've got to tell that dude that, I know you reach a lot of people, and I know, you've got a lot of people that listen to this, but it's like, I'm one person, and you alike have affected my life in ways that you would have never imagined. And I just felt so conveyed to just let you know, be like, hey, dude, what you're doing has brought me out of just the blackest shit on earth. And it was just through a small sequence of events, And
bro, like for anybody that puts out the message of trying to grow and be a better person, if they don't receive that message with excitement, then it proves what they're doing is actually just fraudulent bullshit.
Yeah, well, what's it even for?
Like, there's nothing better than when you open your fucking email and it's like we talked about, some of those emails come through that are like, hey, my husband was sick and 40 pounds overweight and he started listening to your show and then this happened and this happened and this happened. And now we're here. Mm-hmm. Like, fuck yeah.
Yeah.
That's the whole point of sitting down and doing these types of shows. And bro, when you walked in here, I didn't have to vet you because Jenny already vetted you. Mm-hmm. She said, hey, when that David guy comes by, just know he's fuck cool.
Yeah, and she's cool too.
So
I told Tyler, I was like, dude, I wish that lady was my mom.
Yeah. I don't know if that's a compliment or not. I don't know if I'll tell Jenny that.
It's her energy, right?
She's loving, just comforted.
Warm, soft, beautiful mama energy.
Yeah. So then when I heard a car pull up and I knew it was like outside of jiu-jitsu hours, figured it was you. So I just walked up and said, what's up, David?
Yeah.
You know? And then we sat down, we bullshitted. I said, dude, let's tell your story on the podcast. Mm-hmm. And you said, a part of me knew that was part of the trip coming out here, but you didn't say a fucking word about it.
And I was not going to ask.
Yeah, of course
There was no
not,
fucking way I was going to ask because, and even me like coming by here, I was almost hesitant because I was like, I don't want to impose, I don't want to come off as, this is just us, me being a man. It's like, I don't want someone to feel like that.
You know how beyond a shadow of a doubt that you didn't impose is that when 15 other people showed up, you put a gi on and you rolled for 90 minutes. Mm-hmm. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
That's everybody that steps on the mats is now both giving and taking from the energy.
Yeah.
Someone that is here to take, i.e. the guy that we just talked about, people that are here to take wouldn't even ever fucking consider putting a gi on and rolling for 90 minutes.
Yeah.
And like you said, you grew up wrestling, so you have an understanding of grappling. But when's the last time you grappled?
2021, 2020. I told you
years off the mats.
I'd went and
and welcome to Friday Night Rolls.
Yeah. And it was good, dude.
And it was good, bro.
It was good, man.
And I could also, it was my first day fully training back as well. So I was more often than not, I was focused on my rolls because not only did I have to be very engaged to make sure that I didn't get hurt.
Yeah.
But it was kind of new for me again. Like I was going through that phase of like, oh, welcome back to the mats, you know? But when I would look up and see you overtraining with guys, you're 260 pounds. You're a big fucking strong dude with a wrestling background. And everybody in jiu-jitsu knows what that means.
Yeah.
That is the fucking guy that has every attribute to be a dick.
Yep.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
And you weren't at all.
No.
You know? And
I told a couple of those guys, they were like, I was like, dude, I'm going to play defense for the next 6 minutes. And that's it. Like I know that's where I'm at. I'm humbled enough to know like, I'm not going to win anything out here with anybody.
Yeah.
And that's okay.
And bro, and then like everybody, we saunaed afterwards and I saw you and Anthony shooting the shit for a long time. And it's just like,
cool dude.
Man, this dude fucking, this should be your mats, bro.
Yeah. Yeah.
We just need to build a teleporting machine.
I had a long conversation with my wife yesterday. I was like, it's really weird because it's like, I feel this like back and forth of like, I was telling her, I was like, I want us to be here. I said, there is something there. Like, it's like, we've been wanting to move from the place we're at for a long time, but we've played around and looked at places and can't decide shit, And I was like, I want us to be here. I already feel like I'm at home.
Dude, isn't that nuts?
It's crazy. And I told her, I said, but I also have this kind of like guilt of like taking some of the things that come from people like you and Tyler and all these people at your gym and taking them back to my side of the country and trying to disperse it. But here's the thing. It's like, I don't know if those people
are ready to receive it,
but I also don't know if I'm in any way, shape, or form ready to teach it.
See, bro, but all those thoughts are like perfectly in alignment with how me and Tyler feel about all this stuff.
Yeah.
And you can reach your community through vastly different measures. I do it through jiu-jitsu. Mm-hmm. Tyler is now doing it through ceremony. Mm-hmm. But at the end of the day, it's connecting with people that want connection.
Yeah.
And we've figured out different ways to facilitate that.
Yeah.
And bro, what's your way to facilitate that? Who knows? But the fact that you're already thinking about it, I think it's good, man. And before we started recording, we just talked about like who should have a podcast. Why should Tyler and I have a podcast?
Why shouldn't I?
Maybe you should have a podcast someday. And it's like, it's the same thing with the person you are in your community. Like, show up and be a leader in the things that you should be leading at, and people are going to be drawn to you. But the other side of that coin is be a follower to the other people in your circle that are good leaders in their realms. Yeah. And I think I was going to say mastered it here. I don't know if that's a right word, because we haven't you'll never truly master anything. But because of jiu-jitsu, I honestly think you can't have a better vehicle to start with, because in order to have mutual respect, mutual understanding, mutual vulnerability, like fucking we'll get into going out in Tyler's woods and screaming at the moon and shit. Like, we also have to know in our core that we're absolute motherfuckers. Yeah. Like that just has to be an understanding for strong men to want to be drawn to certain activities. If Tyler was a 110-pound vegan that like couldn't fight his way out of a wet paper bag, it's not gonna, even if the ceremony aspect was identical, it wouldn't hold the same value. Because I know, I mean, you and I had an understanding in ceremony, like, you're my brother, but if I were to fight you, it has to be to the death, because anything shy of that is my death. And then that gave us peace with each other. And then fucking David told me the same thing, dude.
He told me the same thing, dude. He's sitting there and he looks at me and he goes, the fact that I look at you and I know that you can just kill me is really humbling, and that means that you're the fucking guy I had to do this with.
Yes, dude.
And I said, you show me the other shaman where you sit there and you sit there like a humbled man, because the shaman will and can kill you.
Yeah, dude. And I laugh because it's, again, everything we talk about is ridiculous, but it's rooted in fucking truth, man.
It is. And then I said also right after that, but David, I have zero interest in killing you, bro. We're at Stones and Bones ceremony to heal and figure out how to fucking love life and be able to do what we're doing here right now, spreading a positive message to the world. So it's the both sides. It's the yin and the yang.
But this 260-pound gorilla needed, again, just like I said, something first rooted in physicality. Now we can take the next step together. Yeah. You know? Yeah. And because if who you are isn't rooted in the physical world that we are currently inhabiting, then you're kind of full of shit, right?
Yes. Yes.
You know?
Yeah, because we spend way more time in what world we're in right now and in our day-to-day lives than we do in like what you and me spent with the other night. Oh, yeah. We're spending the majority of our life right here doing this.
Well, and like Tyler always says, and the reason I'm giving you credit, because this is your opinion, this is not mine, but you're like, I chose to be here right now in this flesh, occupying this space in a 3D realm. So if you chose to fucking be here, at least be good, at least try and be good at it, right?
Yeah, be the best one you can be.
When would you try and choose to go do something and then say, I'm going to choose to do this, but I'm going to do it like kind of haphazardly and shit, and just be kind of full of shit while I do it? It doesn't make any sense, dude.
I'll be fully transparent with you. There's a good portion of my life that was my attitude. That was full transparency. I was just like, I don't give a fuck, dude.
And it led to you with your Glock in your mouth, hating who you become too.
Yeah, multiple times.
So, dude, let's just fucking jump into that then.
Okay.
Not the Glock in the mouth.
Yeah, I'll get
that's one of the climaxes of the story.
Yeah.
But kind of like, I watched your video where you thanked Tyler, and bro, and I was actually thinking about maybe I'll start the episode with that audio. It's 5 minutes long, but in 5 minutes you unpacked a lot of who you are. Yeah. Well, now you have 2 hours. Yeah. So if you want to tell basically that story, where you came from, and we'll fucking just take it as long as we want.
Yeah, and that's probably pretty important, because some of the other shit I'm going to say about the experience that me and him had, you'd have to understand that, you know, I grew up and, you know, like I said in that video, like, by no means did I have the worst life out of everyone. But it was pretty fucking rough. And being a child, it was pretty rough. Around 12 or 13, my mom and dad split because they just fucking hated each other. My dad's an asshole. My mom had some changes in her life to where she was going completely off the rails. They split. My dad leaves. I have no invite from him to go live with him, which was fine. But so my mom, she gets completely spun out on drugs and alcohol. I mean, she just goes down this path of just, dude, she wasn't the same woman. It wasn't the loving, like Thanksgiving cooking, dinner hosting mother that I knew when I was a young child anymore. And she gets spun out on methamphetamines, opiates, alcohol, everything, dude. There was nothing that was off the table, and it was very blatant in front of me. She's she's just doing drug addict things at this point. I'm 14, 15, 16 years old, and she's full blown just losing her job, fucking no money, spending all of her money, getting drug addict things. And she meets a guy who was a piece of shit and moves him into the house with us. And the only reason that she moved him into the house with us was because, she at this time is a full blown meth addict, and so is this guy. But he's got a little money. He's got like this hard logging job, and they pay him pretty good and all this shit. And my mom needed some kind of money, or we weren't gonna have the fucking lights on in the house, and so this dude is, he's insane. I mean, she moved this guy in, and he's off his fucking rocker, meth addict. And this went on for years of him, abusing my mom. Fucking, I was telling Tyler the other night, there was a couple of big standout things I remember from that time period. And it was, I'm couch surfing. I'm 16 years old, dude. I'm staying at this friend's house for 2 or 3 weeks.
Oh, so you bounced because you couldn't be around that shit?
What? And I didn't even know that I'd bounced. I would come home for a week or so, and then I'm like, man, I'm going to go stay at so-and-so's house. So I'm like couch surfing back and forth, and I'll come home for a couple of days and then be like, well, I'm going to I didn't even realize what I was doing at that age. And my mom texts me. I haven't been home in like a fucking week at this point, and I don't know if she could feel that I was about to come home, but she texted me and she said, whatever you do, don't fucking come home. And I was like, at first I'm like, thanks, that just solidified that like I'm in second place or whatever. And so come to find out, what had happened is her boyfriend that was living at the house had taken her hostage, like taking her in the bedroom, shotgun to the face, and was like, when David gets home, I'm going to fucking kill you both, and then I'm going to kill myself, and that's how it's going to work out, because you both need to die. And I don't know how she snuck it, but she texted me that and then just deleted it really fast. And so I found that out a few days later. I come home and he's not there. And basically he had overdosed. They had to come pick him up. He was at the hospital, and it was just like a crazy. And that was the first time I realized. And that was really the first time I thought, I was like, dude, this fucking sucks. Like, this is getting out of hand. And
how old were you?
15, 16 years old.
Bro, it takes a shotgun and being tied up and then an overdose that almost kills someone before you're like, this is out of hand. And that just paints a picture of how normal it had become for you.
This was very normal. And, I remember we had this old shitty blue truck that when my dad had left, he had left it in the yard. And dude, this was like rust floorboard truck, but it would run. And my mom had no money and she couldn't keep up with her own car. So I go out there to crank the car one day before school and it won't crank. And she's like, well, I'll just drive you in the truck. Well, I was already so super embarrassed of being like white trash to a meth addict mom and all of this stuff that I was like, you're not fucking taking me to school in this piece of shit blue truck. And I remember and she's like, well, I have to, and you have to go to school. And I walk out there and there's just like, I walk out, and on the way out, I see a meth pipe laying on the table at the front door. I go out, there's empty liquor bottles laying in our yard, and I'm just like kicking them and I'm just like, dude, I just want to die. I'm like, if this is what life has to offer me, I'm good on this shit. Like, fuck this.
And that's at 16.
That's at 16. Yeah.
So it's your first, like,
I remember
recollection of having an actual suicidal ideation.
I remember taking her gun and putting it in my mouth as a teenage boy.
That's fucking gnarly.
And
bro.
just being like, dude, if this is what this is going to give me, I don't want this.
Did you find yourself getting pulled into any of that shit, or were you averse to it?
Yeah, dude.
Okay.
Oh yeah, I dove head first into drugs, and I think what it was I was lashing out so bad. I was screaming for help on the inside, but nobody was helping me. So I'm like lashing out at school and all this other shit, and no one's helping me. So my lashing out leads to teachers and other kids' parents being like, well, you're a bad kid. To the point where people's parents wouldn't let their children hang out with me because they knew that I was a quote unquote bad kid.
Yeah.
And when I finally accepted that, I was like, I'll show you a fucking bad kid.
You just embrace that.
I'm like,
role.
you want to think I'm bad? I'll take this as far as it has to go. I'll show you a fucking bad kid. So by the time I'm out of high school, dude, I'm drinking, smoking weed, snorting pills, snorting coke. I mean, there was nothing, taking ecstasy all the time. There is nothing off the table for me at this point, and I'm not even 18 yet. So that transferred over to, what we consider adulthood real easy. That path did not leave me, and it just continued to get worse and worse and worse. And at the age of 19, I was selling, I don't know if you guys remember, when you could go to Florida and buy thousands of pills and take them and distribute them.
I love that you asked.
Hey, you guys remember?
Yeah.
If I remember that.
Yeah.
Nope. Sorry.
Okay,
bro.
well,
and I'm way older than you
Yeah.
too.
So around my area, there's
going to be a bunch of listeners that'd be like, "That's right, the good old days."
Yeah,
right?
It was
Down in
about
Florida.
Yeah, it was about 2010, and dude, you could go to Florida, and you could go to these pain clinics and get you could bounce around them for a weekend and come back to your hometown and have 6,000 prescription medication pills. So I had some buddies that were a really big part of that. They would drive and they would pick up 5,000 Oxycontins at a time. And,
just hitting up 100 different places.
well,
or something?
they had a guy that was going around Florida and he had people.
He's doing the legwork.
Yeah,
Got
yeah.
it. Okay.
And we were just I had some buddies that were going.
Just remember, the government monitors this podcast.
Yeah, fucking. And
Sorry, bro.
so at this point, I'm I guess I'm about 19, and I'm selling pills to support my pill habit, and that's getting out of hand. And it was getting to the point where, and I told Tyler this the other night, dude, I would do hundreds of milligrams of Oxycontin and Roxycodone at a time, a day, every day.
What does a normal person use to get high?
10.
Yeah. If all of us,
I just want some perspective.
yeah, if all of us, as we sat here, took 10 to 20 milligrams of Oxycontin, we'd be fucked up. Yeah. I know I would be. At 260 pounds, I'd be fucking on the floor,
10. And you'd want to lay down and feel lethargic and nauseous and fucking
And I'm taking hundreds of milligrams.
Fuck.
And
dude.
everyone in my circle is taking hundreds of, 300 to 400 milligrams of Oxycontin.
You're the Daniel of Oxycontin. That's one of my black belts that can eat 600 milligrams of edibles.
No, I'll pass on that, dude. But so I get busted selling these things. I had a guy, he snitched on me, and I got set up, and I had some detectives hop out the car on me, and they're like, "Hey, come here." And I knew what the deal was. I'm like, "Fuck, that dude set me up." So I go through this long process, and call it. Anybody can call it what they want. They can call it the universe. You can call it God. I kind of call it both sometimes. I remember standing in the courtroom and the judge, and me at 19 years old, being like, "Hey, man, 5 to 10 is what you're looking at." And I'm like, fuck, bro. I'm 19, man. I'm not going to get out till I'm damn near 30. And
bro, I felt that. That's heavy, dude.
I remember with my grandmother, who was an angel on earth, dude. Woman's never done anything wrong in her life. And her sitting there behind me, and my mom. And the judge just being like, yeah, man, this carries. And when he said that, because I just, at the time, I was like, fuck this. This isn't going to amount to shit. When he said that, dude, I was like, oh, wow. Is this where my life's going? So through a series of events, like it was my first time ever really being in big trouble. I did a little bit of jail time. I paid a bunch of fines, probation, like, and what was funny, and this will kind of tell you like where the government is, it's like, I wasn't violating for my probation, for failed drug tests or anything. They violated me because I hadn't paid them the money that they thought that I owed them.
Oh, well, duh.
Yeah. So in the day,
you think they care about your sobriety.
Yeah. So the day I pay them, all of the money that I owed them, quote unquote, I get off of probation. They're like, yeah, okay, now you're done. I'm just like, okay, thanks. So, and you would think seeing that and being that close to just, as still a kid, serving prison time, that would have I'd have been like, okay, I'm good on that. And dude, this day I got off probation, I was like, let's fucking go.
So when you were looking at 5 to 10 and then he just gave you fucking hardly anything, did he do that simply because, like, I'm assuming there was no mandatory minimum, and he looked at your record and was like, this is this kid's first fuck up?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
I think that too. And also at the time, if that whole situation would have transpired even a year later, I'd have went to prison.
It was early enough on that it wasn't.
It was early enough on in the opiate epidemic that people weren't dying like flies off of it. So it was like they didn't have these crazy laws that attributed to the amount that I got caught with.
Yeah. Okay.
So
mandatory minimums are a weird thing, man. It's like, hey, if you have this much, you're going to jail for this long.
Yeah.
And some of the districts, like in the federal side of things that I used to work, the judges can't really use discretion either.
Because
it's like it's a chart.
Yeah.
Okay, you had this much and blah 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 blah. You have to go to jail for this long.
And this will kind of play into where we're at now, but it's like I was 0.2 grams, 0.2 off of that being like a full blown fed ordeal.
Oh, okay.
So it was, it's this close.
And bro, if the feds got hold of it, I say this all the time. People think federal prison's actually a lot gentler as far as your day-to-day life, but they throw the fucking book at people.
Yeah. And I was that close and still didn't realize like the gift I'd been given. You know what I mean? Because I threw it to the wind immediately when I was done with it and just went right back to the same shit.
I can tell you from being on the other side of things, I've had like gangbangers in Los Angeles, like young kids, just like you were, 18, 19, 20, doing the same shit. They get off a time or two. They don't look at that as like a gift. They're like, this is how the system works.
Yeah.
Because I remember this one kid in particular, I was taking him back and he's like, I always get off, man. I got a good ass lawyer. I ain't fucking going to jail. You'll see. And then he got sentenced to 40 fucking years. And I was sitting in that courtroom. Bro, your life is over.
Done. Forever.
And it takes that before it hits when you're 19. Your brain isn't even developed. Just a young, wild animal.
Yeah. Yeah. And I was right there, and I think that was just part of my puzzle to skin by on the skin of my teeth and really, but it was also part of the puzzle that I didn't fucking let up.
Yeah.
Because by the time I got done with all of that, now I'm about to turn 21, and dude, I'm just so mad at the fucking world. Like my mom, while we weren't living together, is still a drug addict. I would see my mom and she would come out to greet me and she would just like have powder caked in her nose. And I'm just like, it got to the point where I was so numb to that I was just like, well, I quit saying anything to her about it. I was just like, this is just who she is. This is how my life is. And my life's fucking shit and her life's shit. And this is just what the world has given me. So fuck it, And I want to say, I do want to, because I'm going to relay this back to some other things later. But so at that area in time, my mom had moved out and moved in with my grandma because my grandma, she was getting a little bit older and just needed someone there that could move around and cook and shit. So the house was empty that I grew up in. So I'm like, well, fuck it. I'm moving back in there. And all of those years of all that shit that had went on inside that house. And I didn't really realize how bad I'd gotten. I got to the point where I'm 20 years old. And dude, when I was like 20, I was fucking, as bad of a drug addict and alcoholic I went to the gym all the time. I never quit going. And I was in really good shape, and I'm getting to the point of like unhinged, wild, like, I don't care. If someone beats my face into the concrete, it was like, good. I don't care, you know? So,
well, and you were pulling what, 600 pounds or something?
Not at that point, but it was like,
it was getting there.
It was getting there. Like I was really starting to like get into my body, like really good. And I was really starting to get like this where I could find myself training wise. And dude, I would just be like, I wouldn't even be of this earth anymore type of thing, you know? But
it was your escape.
It was. And I've used that escape for years, almost to my detriment. But
well, it's like everything needs balance.
Yeah, and
because that's a good escape, right?
Yeah,
oh, yeah.
It was a very good
escape.
one, and it kept me. I feel like it kept me alive through my 20s. But so I want to paint a picture. So at the house, we had like a semicircle driveway. So through no thought process of my own, I would pull up into my driveway to where my driver's door was facing the front door, and there was 3 or 4 steps that led up to our front porch. So at nighttime, I would get out of the car, and before I got out of the car, I would have my house key in my hand, and I would jump from the ground to the porch, and I would like be shaking trying to get my key into the door. I would immediately close the door, but not turn my back to the living room and deadbolt the door. And then I would go through a process of clearing the house. So it's like I would clear my mom's old bedroom. I would look under the bed. I would go to the bathroom, and I would look in the bathroom mirror, and I could see in the shower, and then on the other side of the shower where somebody could be hiding. I had this whole process down pat of clearing my house.
Why were you living in like that state of anxiety? Because of the house, or because there's people that want to get you? Because
I was scared of the man that my mom had moved in there with us for all those years.
So the memories retained in that physical structure.
And I didn't know that's what I was doing. I thought that things like that were normal, because this man had threatened to kill me and my mother for years. Well, that was thrown around real often. He's like, well, it doesn't matter what y'all do, where you go, I'm going to fucking kill y'all.
Yeah.
You know? So I'm living in this house because I don't have anywhere else to fucking live, and the house is paid for at this point. And I'm clearing upstairs, downstairs, everything, dude. And then I would go to my bedroom, and this is at 19 or 20 years old. I would lock myself in my bedroom and not come out until daylight. Like I would piss out the window so I didn't have to walk through the house at night. And, you know, recently I'd had a therapist for about a year, and I was telling her this, and she was like, hey, dude, have you ever heard of post-traumatic stress disorder? And I'm like, yeah, like I don't.
Vietnam veterans.
Yeah, I'm like, I don't fucking have that. And she's like, and I told her that story I just told you verbatim, and she's like, do you really believe that you don't suffer from that? And I was like, no, dude. I hadn't given myself, I was like, I thought PTSD and everything was attributed to someone like yourself. I would look at someone like yourself or anyone like you and be like, well, those are the people that deserve to say, I have post-traumatic stress disorder, not some shithead kid like me that just kind of, you know, had it hard when I was growing up.
Yeah, it's everybody, for whatever reason, like doesn't want to give themselves authority to feel.
Yeah.
You know?
And I mean, my shit was my shit just as much as yours is yours and yours is yours.
Yeah, and it's not, I mean, in the comparison game, it doesn't matter, because I know guys that went to war and it didn't even fucking bother them at all.
Yeah.
I know other guys that one incident and they're fucking ruined for years. And so everybody responds differently.
Yeah.
And it's the same thing. Like for me to compare 04 Ramadi to your household growing up, I'll tell you right now, if I had to pick one, I'd pick going back to Ramadi.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like that's less traumatic in my opinion. But again, it's just how we all perceive it, you know?
Yeah. But so continuing on, like I just let that lifestyle bleed into my early 20s. Dude, I'd ran everyone off, every girlfriend, every friend. I was treating them like shit. I was treating myself like shit, quitting fucking jobs. Like I was just full of just this like black shit in my, like really down in my heart and soul. I fucking hated myself and so bad. And I fucking hated everyone else because of the shit that I'd been subjected to, been put through. And, you know, there was at one point I was like, okay, I've got to clean my shit up. I got to quit drinking. I got to quit just loosely doing drugs and doing all this shit and seeking out every fucking woman that'll give me a little bit of attention. Like, I've got to quit. So over the next few years, I kind of did. I quit drinking. You know, I quit smoking weed, I quit doing everything. And then it got to the point, I remember having a conversation with myself inside of my now home. And I'm like, man, I was such a bad person. And like, I want to prove all these fucking people wrong. You know, I was like, what can I do to prove everyone wrong? And I was like, you know what? I'm going to be a fucking cop. That was what I was like, I was watching, some fucking shit on YouTube, and that just idea popped into my head. I was like, I'm going to be so far removed from what I was in my early 20s that everyone will look at me and be like, oh, good for you, man. I was seeking so much validation through every single other person that I'd come in contact with up to that point in my life that I didn't care how I felt or looked at myself. I cared how everyone else that knew me and knew like how I grew up and everything looked at me. So I was like, you know what? I'm going to be a cop. So I quit all this shit and I end up getting a job at the sheriff's office. It's like 2 blocks away from my house. And they put me in the detention center.
They missed your near federal indictment on your background check.
No, well, yeah. Do not ask me how all of that got passed, but now I know like it was just kind of part of it. So they sent all my shit into the state, but this was in 2020. So the state's like fucked up and backed up. And they needed
motherfuckers.
Oh yeah, dude. They can't look at my hiring packet. Like they're like, yeah, it was basically, they told me, they're like, they'll get to it at some point. So I start off and
just peeling the curtain back a little bit to seeing how dysfunctional our government is.
Yeah. It was amazing. So, you know, I start that job at the detention center and I'm like feeling good. I'm like seeking out, going back, you know, because at this point I'd moved about an hour away from home with my wife and kid. And I was like, I would go back to town and like go to people and want them to ask me, well, what are you doing now, man? But, oh man, I work for the sheriff's office, man.
So let me ask you, is it just for listeners, because a lot of law enforcement listens, in California, when you become a deputy sheriff, you work the jails for a certain amount of time, then you move to patrol. Is it the same concept there?
Nah, you can do either or.
So it's different positions kind of within the agency?
Yeah, okay. I chose to work the detention center because they were immediately hiring.
I see.
And I just wanted to just remove myself from what this old life so bad. I was like, oh, I can still say I work for the sheriff's office. Yeah. So I'm working there a couple of years and, dude, little did I know that was, and I see it now just coming from the other night. That was the best thing I ever did, but it was the worst. It sent my life into a fucking spiral because, like I was telling you the other night, it got to the point where my last little bit of working there, I would go, if one of those inmates said something to me, I'd become so unhinged in my own brain because I hadn't dealt with anything that I dealt with, Yeah,
you're just hiding it.
Yeah, I just stuffed it down. I'm like, well, I'm fucking this and that. I would, if one of the inmates would come over the intercom and be like, hey, man, can you do that? I'm like, nah, bro, I can't do that right now. And then they come back over the intercom and be like, well, fuck you, motherfucker. And I'm like, oh, yeah? You can call me a motherfucker? And me alone, I would get up and not say anything to anyone I was working with. Go in there, pop the door of the pod, pop this dude's cell door that's about to go to federal prison and has nothing to fucking lose, close the door behind me and be like, let's throw hands, dude. If you're going to call me a motherfucker, let's see how much of a motherfucker like you and me both can be right here, right now. And this is coming from me. When I was growing up, as angry and shit as I was, like I never really got into like a lot of fights because I kind of spread myself around to everybody. Like I was buddies with everybody, I didn't get in, there wasn't people coming up challenging me all the time. So, and I also felt as a man, I was like, since that never happened to me when I was younger in my youth, I was like, I need to prove myself to myself now. And here's a fucking arena of dudes just biting at the bit to fucking get in a fight with somebody, and like, I'll give it to them, you know? And it was really bad because, you know, it's like, that's toxic as fuck. That's a really toxic mindset for a man to be like, I was getting all of my validation off of other people being like, oh man, he'll handle it. He'll do it. You know, dude.
So the other deputies started to be like,
yeah, the ones
David will take care of this.
Yeah. And dude, I had road deputies that would call, and there'd be somebody just losing their mind in the patrol car.
We're bringing in a good one, bro.
Hey man, is David in the back? Bring him up to the front, man. This is going to be a good one. And dude, I would literally like just radio off fucking, and where we're from, dude, there is some crazy fucking backwoods meth smoking rednecks. And all they've done their whole life is fuck, eat, and fight.
Yeah.
And they fucking just chomping at the bit for somebody like me to challenge them in a place where their freedom's been taken from them. And dude, it got to the, I loved it. I fucking loved it, dude. I was begging. I would beg for people, just a sly comment.
Like in one aspect, you reflect on it and you say it was really toxic, right? But I also understand it. Mm-hmm. Like, you know, a young man that's big and strong and aggressive and filled with demons.
Yeah.
Of course you want to fuck dudes up, you know?
Yeah.
That's like, that's in our DNA. And again, like, there's healthy ways to do that, but you're a young wild animal.
Yeah.
You're not looking at it from that lens and saying, like, what's a good way? What's a good outlet for me to get this rage out?
Yeah, I think probably
seems like a valid thing.
Yeah, I think probably
and the system has your back. Like, I'm fucking unstoppable.
So our system just turned. They were just really good at turning a blind eye. You know, like me walking out of a cell, and then a dude walking out of the cell the next morning for his free time, and his fucking eyes swelled up and shit. It's like, no, everybody knew, but no one was saying anything. Type of deal. Did
the inmates respect you differently though? Because you're speaking their language.
I got more compliance out of inmates than any fucking person working in that entire jail. And it was because of that reason. It was like, dude, I know you and you know me, and you know if push comes to shove, I'll take you in that cell, and I don't care if you beat my ass or I don't care if I beat your fucking ass, but we will fight. I'm not scared to fight. And I can't even fight all that good. It's just, I mean, I'm just being fully trained. Like, I can't fight all that good. But it's like,
I knew this would be a good episode.
And
because it's not about that.
No,
yeah.
It's just about the skill level.
No. Because those dudes, a lot of 9 times out of 10, they can't fight either. But they want to, and so do I. So it's like, well, here's a little fucking square. Let's get it in, dude.
Yeah.
And plus, and always, you know, this is just me in my headspace at the time. I made a point to do it in front of the other inmates. Mm-hmm. You know, there'd be a pod full of 30 dudes, and if one dude come up and wanted to challenge me inside the pod, I'd be like, well, let's do it right here, right now. Let's do it in front of fucking everybody so that everybody fucking knows. Because I want all of you to know I'm not going to put up with your shit. But on the same flip side, dude, I had some of those guys, grown men, me sit in their cell, and then like me sit on the like their desk chair, and them sit on the bunk. And these are dudes that are going to federal prison, and then just cry and just be like, dude, I don't know what the fuck, you know, like they would just confide to me all of this shit and be like, man, I know you don't understand. And I'm like, no, dude, I do understand. I do, like, I'm one tiny little mistake away, 100,000 tiny little mistakes away from being me sitting where you're sitting. And you know what I mean?
Yeah,
like,
of course.
I could have been you 100,000 times, dude. But and at the time, I didn't understand why. Right. I didn't understand why I had gotten in that position. But yeah, dude, I got more compliance out of these grown, just savages than anybody. And it was because too.
And it sounds like they almost considered you a friend.
A lot of them did, yeah, man. A lot of and you know what's weird is I would kind of go back and forth in my own brain of like, man, a couple of these dudes I kind of like care about.
Yeah.
Like, I care what happens to these dudes. But at the same time, like if I was to express that to some of my higher ups,
No, they're just a fucking mope.
they're like, man, they're playing a mind game with you, man. That's what they want you to do. They want you to care so that you'll do this. And I'm like, listen, dude, I'm not so fucking stupid that I'm going to like smuggle drugs into these dudes. But what's the point of them having a bad day and then me making their day 100 times worse?
Bro, it's even though you were young and wild and lost, you still had a high level of emotional intelligence.
You're still a human being.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
Yeah,
You're still a human being.
Because, bro, like I've talked about that on the show a lot, where their issue that they are currently incarcerated for is between them and the judicial system. It's not
me.
between them and you, right? And once you're comfortable saying, just like you said, hey, if you want to fucking throw hands, I'm right here. But if you don't, man, we can be homies too.
Yeah, we
and
can
that's
be cool. I'll leave the TV on, dude. I don't really give a fuck.
Yeah.
Like,
well, bro, you know what I used to do? Because as a U.S. Marshal, we did a lot of work in the cell block. Bro, we're pushing a cart around, feeding people through a slot,
hole. Yeah.
a hole like in the zoo.
yeah.
And I'd have a guy be like, hey, bro, if there's an extra milk, is it cool if I get it?
Oh yeah, dude.
Bro, hey, you know what? There's 5 extra milks today. Here you go,
Yeah.
man. And some deputies would be like, don't fucking give them extra food.
Yeah, why? Why?
Why do you care?
Did you pay for that shit?
Yeah, first of all, like, why do you care from like, yeah, exactly, a financial aspect or a professional aspect?
Mm-hmm.
But you're also like, bro, you're going to be safer if you make the men in there hold you in a little higher regard.
Yeah.
It's very simple. It's
Yeah.
just human interaction.
Yeah. This can sound however it wants, but it had gotten to the point where I had gotten so much respect from those guys that if a new person came into the pod and was being out of line with
They
me,
take care of it.
I would have dudes come up to me and be like, "Hey man, you want me to go handle that?"
Hell
for you?"
yeah.
And I'm like, "Nah, dude, I got it."
I love this
and then
shit. I love this is my shit.
Yeah, I'm like, I got it, dude. And then, push come to shove, I would make an example out of that person. And it had just, but man, it was like, that was the most toxic work environment ever. And it
Well,
wasn't,
bro, I can't even imagine.
well,
dude.
it wasn't because of them. It was, and I say this safely, it was not because of the inmates.
Mhm.
It was because of the people I worked with.
Yeah.
They were just, a lot of them are just not really good people. And my higher ups were just fucking like, dude, I had a lieutenant, and it's weird because I do respect him, and I respect a lot of the thing, because you want to talk about somebody who wasn't fucking scared to just walk in somewhere. He was a lot more professional about it than I was, like going hands on with somebody. But dude, I hated this fucking dude. He was, I mean, we're talking like crew cut, having like, just like, no, you can't give him the extra milk. You can't do this. And I'm like, dude, what the fuck is wrong with this dude, man? Like, one of the most narcissistic people I'd ever met in my life. And
Well, bro, when people want to cling to their power, like that's what it
Yeah.
is. It's I have the power. You want something from me.
yeah,
And if you give them that, then that power's gone, right?
yeah, yeah,
If they're going to hold on to that.
yeah. I mean, it was
That's
like
weird.
like he would enter the room, and like we'd be sitting out, and dude, he would enter the room and just sit down and not say a word. And I'm like, fuck, dude, like what is wrong with you? And like some of my coworkers be like, oh, hey man, you good? And he's like, yeah, I'm fine. I'm like, dude, what? I don't know. Why? What's the point of you walking around like that every day?
Yeah.
But it was a power thing,
He's miserable inside too, bro.
Yeah,
I'm sure,
I mean, and this is, I'm not.
Send him to Stones and Bones.
Yeah, oh, dude.
I was just thinking
That
when
would
we were
be
talking.
Yeah,
I would love to spend time with that guy.
yeah, and he's a guy. If I'm not mistaken, is a jiu-jitsu brown belt, black belt in judo. He got that like when he was a child. Like,
Yeah, he knows some shit.
knows some fucking shit, man. And he would have your back if it was time to like throw down. But just the most negative, and a lot of the leadership, and what I never got on with, and I've never got on with anything in my entire life, it was just a huge revolving ass kissing contest.
Mhm.
And I remember if there's anything I've ever stood on and been able to say confidently, it's that I've never fucking kissed anybody's ass for nothing. And I told myself that in an early 20s. I'm like, dude, I'm not fucking kissing someone's ass. I'm not going to fucking do it. I'd rather die than be one of these dudes that hang around and, oh, hey, man, you know, like, I'm just, it's not in me, man. And I've had people where I'm from be like, hey, man, you got to kiss a little ass? Who gives a fuck? I'm like, well, dude, I give a fuck. I give a fuck about that. Like, that makes me feel worse than I already feel, you know? Like, what is the point? And that's the thing, like, we as men, as a whole in society, it blows my mind how much we think we need to kiss other men's ass to progress our own selves. It literally blows my fucking mind how much that happens every single day.
And here's the most ironic thing about it is the people's whose ass you're kissing, that's the least effective way to actually build a relationship with them and actually make something powerful transpire, you know?
Yeah, and the thing is too, a lot of the ass kissing that goes on, it's kind of like, well, dude, if you're gone tomorrow, you think that dude gives a fuck?
Yeah.
Do you think these people are like really care, especially in like a work setting, like a professional setting? Like, I don't know. That's something that's always bothered me and continues to, because I feel like it's just submission as men. Being like, well, he's ahead of me, he's this, he's that, and I'm here, so I need to boost his ego. It's like, dude, why don't you just fucking just do you and work hard and see what happens? And you know what, man? If you don't get promoted or what, who gives a fuck? Who gives a? Yeah. Why don't you take your outside life and make it the best you can be, instead of you making your work life the best it can be? Because your work life, a lot of the times, especially in this society, is just, it's just a means to pay your bills.
Yeah.
You know, and I feel like a lot of us, especially myself, are super miserable in that circle of like, dude, I'll be fully transparent. I've never been able to keep a job very well. And that's solely because I would get into a job and I would start seeing these things like the ass kissing and the this and the that. And I would feel like a caged animal at work. I'm like, dude, I can't do this. I'm not meant to do this. Like, I'm not meant to live like this. And you know, what's
fucking Tyler talking to me 1 year ago, dude, I'm not swinging a hammer for another man anymore.
No. And the thing is,
I totally resonate with your story. Like 100%, dude.
The thing is we as other men, damn people like you and me that will say things like that. Be like, dude, I can't work the same fucking job 9 to 5 and retire from it. And you're like, well, why not, man? Why'd you quit that good job? What's wrong with you, man? Like, a man is supposed to just get his ass up and work every day until he fucking dies. And it's like, says who? When did we ever how have we strayed so far off the path that we men will damn other men for just saying, hey, man, this isn't how we're supposed to be living. Like, this isn't for us.
Bro, it's when people accept mediocrity, then they want other people around them to accept it as well, because it validates them not trying to be something better.
Yeah, you're right. And I don't know how like the culture of like men to young men is like out here, but that's driven home before you're even out of fucking high school where I'm from. It's like, you don't have but 3 options: military, go to college, or you better go get a job at the fucking, you know, the mill or the fucking or the fucking plant. And that's what you do until you die. You make money and you live within your means, and then you die. And it's like, I'm sorry, but that sounds fucking awful.
Well, bro, if that's your life,
west.
Yeah.
There's nothing west.
Yeah.
I don't care. That's where I'm going. And now I got treasure to show you guys.
Yeah. Or like the settlers were moving west. Well, there's Native Americans out there. There's Indians out there. They'll scalp you if they find you. Good.
Because you know what, man? Being fucking...
Because I'm free out here.
I'm free. Being fucking scalped to death is better than this monotonous bullshit every day.
Yeah.
And that's what I'd made my mind up about coming out here. And I'll get back to kind of like the past year or two in a second, but it's like, you know, when people talk about doing like psychedelic experiences, like there's a stigma of like, well, you could go crazy, or you could lose your mind, or you could do this, and it's like...
Marty doing that.
I'm like... Bro, I'm fucking there, and I've been there. And 2, me fucking losing my mind and living in whatever way that may be is better than the way I'm living right here, right now. Anything different is better than this because this is bad. And then so the past couple of years, dude, I just ruined my life. I'd been a bad dad.
Well, I want to hear, before we go into bad dad story, how did you come to that realization inside of the sheriff's office and then move away from that?
Fully transparent, man. The only addiction I never fully kicked until, being in my 30s was lust in women.
Uh-huh.
And, I was getting validation from a lot of that, and it got a hold of me. And, you can read between the lines, but I was being a bad fucking husband.
Yeah.
Not being faithful. I'm being a bad dad. And it's like, I was just seeking so much validation from other people because I was so unhappy with myself. Like, dude, I fucking hate it. I just had the most worst disdain for my own self, as I didn't hate anyone as much as I hated my own self. So it leads to that. My fucking life just goes to shit and it blows up. And, my wife, who, listen, dude, is a goddess. She is an angel. And she told me years ago, she's like, I see something in you, but you're so fucked up. I can't put my finger, like, there's something, you're better than this. And I'm just like, no, the fuck, I'm not, dude. This is what you get. I'm shit, You
don't know what you're talking about, woman.
You don't understand. You don't understand. And the thing is,
and she fucking saw it, bro.
Yeah, she saw it years ago. And dude, she has been with me through every fucking thing. And that is one of the strongest women. Dude, the shit that I've put that woman through is, she should have left me 100 times, So, and she should have took our kid too. I mean, honestly, like, dude, I have not. And the thing is too, is like, I didn't know how to be a good dad because I didn't have a good dad. I wasn't taught that from another man. But then, so you pair that with how much self disdain I've got for my own self. And it's just, you're not going to be a good father. You're not going to be a good man. I wasn't being a good husband. So my life blows up and it goes to shit. And me and her kind of go through like a 1.5 year, almost 2-year process of just me saying, well, I'll change. I'm going to get better. I'm going to get, and just never doing it, And through that like last 1.5 years or so, dude, there've been so many times I'd have my pistol in my hand and I'd just be like running it around on the inside of my mouth, just like biting down on it, seeing what it felt like. And then there would be times, I would just take it and I would have it in my hand. I'd be sitting in my truck and I'd just be like, just do it. Just do it. Like, just real quick. Like, it's going to be quick, man. Just fucking do it. Like, and then I would get mad at myself. I'd be like, you're such a fucking pussy that you won't even relieve everyone else of the shit that you've caused. Like, you're such a pussy. You can't even fucking kill yourself. And that's the headspace I'd gotten into. And it all kind of like,
how long ago? A year ago or so? 1.5 years?
I mean, bro, like when I called Tyler, it was a couple of weeks before Christmas. And I'd made it up in my mind, and this is kind of what has led me out here to today. I'd made it up in my mind that day at work. I was like, I have to do myself and everyone else a favor, and I've got to kill myself. Like, I'm fucking just bleeding out into everybody and everything, and I can't shed the shit that's in my heart and soul. Like, I don't know how to get this out of me. It was like I was just cursed. I felt cursed, and I was like, I have to fucking do this. And then through like a small, weird series of events, I was at work that day and I was running a piece of equipment and I was like, I just wanted something to listen to take, like I'd made my mind up. I was very comfortable with the fact that like probably after Christmas, I was going to get my kid through another Christmas and then I was going to take my own life. And I was just like, yeah, that's what it is, man. That's what it's going to be, whatever. And I was like, man, I need something to listen to while I'm running this machine at work because I had since lost my job at the sheriff's office and a whole bunch of shit and so I'm sitting on this machine running it and I was like, I need something to listen to. And I was like, man, I wonder if that fucking, that dude, Tyler, still got a podcast, like if he's still doing it. And I clicked on it and I kind of like thumbed back through probably like a month or two of episodes. And I was like, the title of it, which I don't remember what it was at the time. I was like, this is the one I need to listen to. And I just clicked it and I started listening to, and dude, I had to go into like the Porta-John at work and cry because of the things that were coming out of his mouth. And, you know, he had mentioned at first, he was like, you know, if you want to do rune readings or you want to do this, he's like, just contact me at my email. And I was like, okay, I'm just going to see what, you know. So I emailed him. He emailed me back within an hour. And we were on the phone within 2 hours, probably, I guess. And we talked for about an hour. I had an hour lunch break that day, and we talked for the whole hour. And I think that set a course of events up that has literally blown my mind still to the second while we're sitting here today, because I automatically knew after me and him got off the phone, I was like, I'm not going to kill myself anymore. And you know, this is coming from a person who had a gun in his mouth from the time he was 15 years old. And just for some reason, never just just took that real short action of pulling a trigger. And I just knew, I was like, I don't think I'm going to do that. I think that's off the table for me now. And so a couple of nights later, we do a rune reading over the phone. I'm like sitting in a grocery store parking lot, and we're talking, and he's doing it. And some of the things he was telling me, I was like, it was kind of like, you know how people used to do like tarot card readings, like Miss Cleo shit. And I was like, that's kind of what I thought this was going to be. And it almost was, because I was like, dude, how does this fucking dude know? Like, how is this dude?
Don't try and understand.
No, dude.
I told you the other night when he did my rune reading, this one, you see his bag?
Yeah.
What is there, 25 in there? He pulled the same one 3 times.
Yeah. And he pulled this.
Come on, dude.
The ones he pulled out for me, and he was like, do you feel this way or that? And I was like, holy shit, man. I was like, this is getting kind of weird. Well, he pulled one out and he asked me, he was like, have you ever done mushrooms? And I was like, nah, man, not really. Like, because for whatever reason, through all those years of drug abuse and alcoholism, I just didn't. Like, I did LSD when I was a teenager one time and fucked around a little bit. Nothing crazy. And he was like, well, you know, I can't really remember the conversation, but it was like, you know, I think that'd be a good idea for you. And he's like, you know, I could try to look in and see if there's any people that could facilitate that towards you. And I was almost internally being like, dude, I hope this guy asks me if it's okay if he does it. And then immediately he's like, or, you know, man, if you were closer, I could do it. And I was like, dude, I don't give a fuck how far away I am. I'll come out there and do it. I was like, I'll do it. I knew immediately. I was like, yeah, I'll be out there.
And this was right around Christmas, huh?
This was about a week and a half, 2 weeks before Christmas.
Okay.
And he's like, well, man, you know, he's like, let's wait. And let's wait. You know, Christmas is coming up. And then you went down to Costa Rica. And he's like, let's wait till like after that. And I was like, okay, that's good. So.
Because I knew that before I started having like people who I've never met before, I knew that there was something in Costa Rica that had to be done. Like there was something I had to learn or remember or acquire new skills before I felt that I would be able to truly help.
Yeah. And I kind of had that same feeling. I was like, when he told me, and then I looked into where he was going and what he was going to be doing, I was like, I want to wait till he's done with that. I felt the overwhelming. I was like, I want to wait till he's done doing that before I go see him.
Did you share any of these feelings or experiences with your wife as they were happening?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I was kind of like super transparent with her for the whole, like, you know, 6 or 7 weeks leading up to coming out here the other day. And because she had been begging me to, she was like, please go do something to fix your mind and your heart. She's like, you're like, if you don't, like, we're not going to be together. You know, we're not going to be together. You're going to ruin your life even more. The guilt and the shame that you feel right now is going to consume you, and you are going to kill yourself. Like, I even had my therapist tell me that one day. She's like, David, I'm really like, if you don't do something about this, like, you're going to end up killing. I know for a fact you're going to end up taking your own life. And I knew it too, you know? But I needed some like relief right then, right there. Cause I was like, man, I don't know how I'm going to make it another 6 or 7 weeks in this headspace. So I'd found somebody locally and I started microdosing a little bit of mushrooms before coming out here. And dude, just a little bit of that I got from that was eye-opening. It was life-changing. It was like I told Tyler this story. I was supposed to drop my kid off at school one day. So right before me and him leave the house, I take a little bit, and I take like a little bit more than I was used to taking. I'm talking a smaller. I'm talking like 0.2. Mm-hmm. And I take him to school, and they're like, hey, man, we just canceled school because it's flooding. And I was like, ooh. Well, this is about to be good. I was like, this is about to be good. So I take him back to the house, and we eat some breakfast and shit. And I'm like, there's a lot going on at the house. And I was like, dude, let's get the fuck out of here and go do something. So we're driving, and this shit's like, it was really hitting me. And, you know, so people can say what they want about me driving my kid around. Like,
bro, it's a microdose.
Yeah,
I used to microdose on patrol as a police officer.
Yeah, it's not. Yeah, it was nothing that I couldn't control any scenario that was going on. And I pull over in this parking lot because he wants me to help him with something. And I turn around and I help him with it. And then I kind of I'm going to tell him, I'm like, come here. And I pull him to me and I pull him in the front seat of my truck. And I'm like, and I tell him, I'm like, dude, I love you like so much. And I'm like hugging him and he's laughing and smiling and I'm laughing and smiling. And we just kind of like, for the first time in my life, I could feel energy going between me and another person.
Wow.
And I was like, good energy, not dog shit. And it just popped into my mind. I was like, this is what love feels like. I was like, I've never felt this before. I'm a 32-year-old man pulled off on the side of the road. It's pouring ass rain. I don't even remember what we even did that day, but I'm like, it took all this for me to feel, this is the first time I've ever felt what real love feels like. And it just like, I sat on that for days. I told my wife and I sat on that for days, man. I was like, dude, I couldn't believe I'd went that whole time and never felt how good that felt, you know? And my kid's 7, man.
Yeah. And
I love that kid. He's crazy. You know, we were talking about him earlier, dude. He's wild. He's fucking crazy. Like, he just wants to, he's a fucking 7-year-old wildling boy. Like, and I just thought I loved him. And I do love him, and I always have. But I had never in my life felt something like that before that day. And that's when I knew I was like, my life's about to change a little bit.
Fuck,
and, you know, leading up to that, me and my wife, like, we still got a couple arguments, like, and all this shit. Because there were some days I think what I can attribute it to is my thinking brain was like, hey, man, you're going to do what? You're going to fly out and stay at some fucking dude's house you've never met before and do all this, like, what if this dude kills you in the back of his woods? What if what if your plane crashes? What if this? Because at this point, I'd never been on an airplane my entire life.
Dang, dude.
Yeah, and it mortified me. The thought of being on an airplane mortified me so fucking bad. I was like, dude, I'll drive out there. And my wife's like, you're going to drive fucking
6,000 miles.
Yeah, like what? You're not doing that. And I'm like, okay. Well, in the weeks preceding, especially like the 3 weeks preceding coming out here, there was some weird fucking shit starting to happen. I'd fully caved into the fact I was like, I'm going to get on a plane. And it's not going to, I lost all fear of it it was just like one day the fear of it was gone, which was kind of like off-putting to me because I'd been so scared of it my entire life. And then there was just like little shit starting to happen. And I told Tyler this the other night. It was like, I started seeing a large influx of ducks all over the place. I would see them every day, all day, multiple places, in places I really shouldn't have seen them. I started seeing a lot of ducks. I started seeing a lot of crows. I started getting these little just like bubble pops in my own brain of like, well, maybe this is for this. And like, man, that's weird. And it's shit that was happening that, you know, a couple of years ago, I would have looked at it and been like, who gives a fuck about those ducks? Who gives a fuck about these crows? I would meet little people, and it was just like all of this shit was starting to kind of like build up. And in the last week of my job, I thought about this, and I told my wife about it. I haven't told anybody else about it. We were finishing a big job at this really nice house in Asheville, where I'm from, and they had sent some other people out there to work with us that don't usually work with us. Well, they sent this fucking dude out there, and I'd really never talked to this guy because we never worked on the same crews at work. And I wanted to fucking kill this dude. He was like, all he was doing all day was just like being kind of lazy and just like talking shit and talking about how bad everything was and how fucking stupid this job was. And man, and he's one of those, he's like, well, if so-and-so told me this, I'd fucking that's how you get your ass beat and all this shit. And I'm like looking at him, I'm like, dude, I just want to fucking snap your neck off your body. And it was festering because it was all week. It was 4 straight 10-hour days of me just listening to this motherfucker. And dude, I had a bubble pop and I was like, dude, that's me. That dude right there has been me for the past 15 years. I'm looking like it was like God had put him there right before
to show you yourself.
To show me, be like, motherfucker, do you want to keep living like that? Because how you feel right now, imagine how many people have felt like that towards you out of all of that negative bullshit that's come out of your mouth for the past 15 years. And when I realized that, I kind of stopped wanting to kill him. And I was kind of just like, man, this dude's fucking lost. And that was the first time I ever I was like, what am I thinking? Like, I had compassion for him. He was like, when 48 hours before, I was like, dude, I'm going to rip this dude's jaw off if he doesn't shut his mouth. And then it was like, I just let it go. And I was like, man, he's fucked up. Like I was fucked up. 'Cause he's a younger dude. And I was like, dude, I can't live life like that no more. Like, I don't want people to look at me like I'm looking at this dude anymore. Like, I can't keep going on like that. And that was
he was part of all these little omens.
He was a big part. He was a big part of it. And when I realized that, and I realized all of these little pieces were getting put together, I just kind of like sunk into the fact. I was like, dude, this is what I'm supposed to be doing right now. And then I told Tyler this the other night too. Dude, there was some just straight weird shit going on at the house. Like our air fryer, like me and my wife are standing in the kitchen drinking coffee and it just starts beeping crazy, like over and over, to the point I had to unplug it to get it to cut off. And there's shit flying off the walls. My jacket's flying off hooks that shouldn't be flying off of, like the microwave's beeping at me when nothing's in it. And it's just me in the kitchen, like and I'm like, what the fuck is going on? And I almost didn't know how to take it. 'Cause I expressed to my wife, like all of this that was going on. And she's like, well, somebody's trying to get your attention. And, and me and my kind of like, odd way of thinking, I was like, was it telling me like to not get on, like the plane's going to crash? Yeah. And I was like, and she's like, dude, just fucking stop, man. Just go with it. And I'm like, okay, I'm just going to go with it. And, that was the last week before the 7th of February when I flew out here. And dude, I just knew what I was supposed to be here. As soon as I touched down, I was like, this feels good. This feels right, And then, I got like a room, and then I went and met Tyler the 8th at about 12 o'clock. And dude, I'd called my uncle yesterday. Me and him have been super close my whole life. And I told him, I was like, that was the most important thing I've ever done in my entire life. The past 24 hours have been the most important hours I've ever been alive because of what me and Tyler did together.
Fuck, dude.
Yeah, it was, I don't know, man. It was the clarity I got from the things we did. it was something I was never going to get it anywhere else. I wasn't going to get it in therapy. I definitely wasn't going to get it through other people and I definitely wasn't going to get it in the 3D mind, if that makes sense. Like I wasn't going to get it sitting here thinking like I'm thinking right now. It wasn't going to happen because it never had happened. And, I don't know, man. It was,
well, let me ask you this for both of you guys, because you went out there and, like you said, right at noon, you basically talked for a minute and then kind of went right into ceremony.
Yeah,
right?
we were in ceremony within an hour. Yeah.
But on one hand, I'm sure people want to hear about the ceremony.
Mm-hmm.
On the other hand, that's your guys' experience. Mm-hmm. And I don't know what needs to go out there or what doesn't. And Tyler, that's obviously whatever energy you need to share to the universe about it. But I don't want to prod too much because some of it is probably supposed to be between you two, right?
I don't know if it is, man.
He knows.
My thing is this. Stones and Bones is here for a reason.
Yeah.
To bring it to the world.
Okay.
And I understand that this is playing with fire, playing with
whatever.
I'm a soul who's supposed to bring it back. However, I will never encroach on your confidential, personal life and soul.
Well, I've been pretty transparent thus far.
Yeah.
For me, I'm an open book.
Yeah.
People don't get to have my address.
Yeah, fair enough. Yeah.
Until after the phone call.
Yeah, right. Until you get a hold of me on my email.
Yeah.
But whatever you're comfortable with,
cool.
Is that's how I'd like to roll with it.
Yeah.
Well, before we go into it, I just finished a book called The Alchemist. You ever read that?
No, but I think I just seen it at the store the other day.
And the whole point of this book, basically, is if you want to reach your personal legend, as they call it,
mm-hmm.
and their version of their personal legend is basically rising to the highest that you are capable of rising and living the dream that you want to live while on planet Earth, that you have to listen to all the omens in your life and pay heed to those omens. Mm-hmm. And they talk about little things.
Yes.
And little interactions. Mm-hmm. And he's like, most people never reach their personal legend because they don't listen to the omens.
Yeah.
And, I mean, at what point is something an omen, or is it literally just a bird flying over your head, right? I guess that's for you to decipher.
Yeah, I think it is.
But what's your take on all the birds? Do you have an opinion on that?
Yeah, I mean, I don't think that every single thing is like connected to the path. Mm-hmm. There's birds that are flying by who are literally flying by to go suck on some flower nectar. However, there's also other things, for instance, in ceremony, like with the ravens.
Yeah, yeah.
That is a completely different thing where I'm actually speaking with the animals.
And it was very, very obvious.
And that was an omen for you to have.
Yeah.
So, and I even said it, from this point on in your life, you no longer get to say, we don't have the ability to interact with nature.
Yeah.
So talking about the animals in ceremony, I just want to briefly, because I've talked about it on the podcast when I did my ceremony with Tyler, but just so you can hear it. Mm-hmm. As I'm pulling up to Tyler's house, a big old doe walks right in front of my car. Now, we live in the Pacific Northwest. There's lots of deer. That's not the end of the fucking world, right? Yeah. But I've also never seen that when I'm driving to Tyler's house. And it was also right when I got there. It was at the gate where you have to punch the code in. Mm-hmm. And there's just something about it, right? Remember I told you, and you said something to the effect of the animals are aware ceremony's going to happen.
Yeah.
Okay. And I'm not kidding you, because you know how when you're really deep in the medicine, some things are in your brain, but the things that are occurring externally, you still know that's occurring externally.
Yeah,
right?
like your cat's walking around.
Right. Bro,
yeah.
Animals were, I would say, galloping. It was more than just walking through the woods. And bro, it wasn't, the cats were doing it too, but there was some big animals out there. And I don't know if it were deer or bear, but you could hear them circling us while we were in ceremony.
Like crunching branches.
Bro. Yeah. Big animals.
Yeah.
Zero concern about it though.
Yeah.
There wasn't like, not one of us were like, bro, is there a fucking bear out there? Everything was feeling how it was supposed to feel. And like when we were deep in the medicine and fucking like raw and fucking he's clanking his bones together and shit, the energy of the animals was like fucking,
sped up.
They're fucking, the energy in the animals was the same that we were feeling.
Yeah.
And bro, when we started to come out of the medicine,
slowed down.
like, was it 6? I don't know. 6 cats or something came out of the woods and sat with us at the fire.
Like on the logs and the stumps.
Yeah.
And I remember Tyler going, that cat's mine and that cat's mine.
Yeah, those 2 cats that were with us.
I don't know.
There was a bunch other
He goes, I don't know who the rest of those are. And I was like, we heard ruckus the whole time.
Mm-hmm.
We knew shit was going on. And then a bunch of cats come and sit with us as soon as we started to calm down.
Yeah.
Just, okay, there's things happening that you can't ignore.
Yeah.
And I'm sure there's plenty of people that'll listen and be like, oh, fucking these cats running around. Like, I'm here to tell you, dude, like, I'm not fucking crazy. My brain works well.
Yeah.
I can interpret things. Never in my life has a group of wild animals interacted in the way they interacted. And here we are. Sounds like you got something similar.
So, you know, that's funny that you say that about the deer because, so kind of a side note, like this was the first year I'd ever in my life fully decided like I'm going to archery hunt whitetail deer. And I end up, I kind of kept thinking as like, because I killed a bunch of them, like and I was like, man, it's almost like these deer are presenting themselves to me because they want me to take their lives. And I had that thought in I'm like sitting in a tree thinking that. So I'm like, dude, this is like, I'm fucking out here slaying, which was like cool. So, I mean, there'd be times I would be sitting in a tree and this was just in like November, I'm out like hunting in the morning and dude, there would be like 28 deer herded up under my tree. Not separately.
I need to hunt where you're hunting.
Yeah, dude. Not separately at one time. And I'm like, fuck, man. And then the last day of hunting season, I get up, I'm hanging in a saddle in this tree in this place I'd been hunting, and I hear like a waterfall. And I'm like, I'm out in the middle of the fucking woods, dude. And I look back and there's a herd. And when I say a herd, I'm talking like a buffalo stampede of white-tailed deer running down the hill behind me. And I was like, well, I'm talking 50, 60 deer running at one time. And I was like, God, that's fucking crazy. But the weirdest thing is I also kept having some interactions with deer that were outside of the woods. And I was also having a little bit of dreams about them. But the weirdest one was 2 days after me and him spoke for the first time. We were kind of closing up shop on this job that was way up in the mountains. And one of the guys I was working with, he's like, dude, look. And I look behind me, and from here to that pillar that's outside in your gym, there's a buck just walking right there. And I'm like, and we're up here, dude, we've been shoveling and fucking laughing and cutting up and all this shit. And it's just, dude, it was just as calm. And like, it kind of just looked over at us, and I'm looking at it, and I was like, this isn't normal. Like, this isn't anywhere
Yeah,
close.
whitetails are skittish as fuck,
Dude,
man.
this motherfucker had no fear, just walking, just like looking around and just like acknowledged us. And I'm like, we acknowledged it. And then it just kind of went on about its bit. It never ran, just walked as slow as you and me would walk normally.
That's an omen.
Yeah.
That's a sign of protection.
I meant to ask that the other night, but I wasn't in the place to ask it. So, but yeah. And I'll say this too. When I left your house the other day, and I'd had some other interactions like that, preceding up to me coming out here. I left your house the other day, and I went to the island you told me to go to. I went and I sat on the beach, and I was just like trying to like process everything for a little bit, and it was super nice that day too. It was a really nice day. I'm sitting out on the beach, and I'm like just trying to process some things, and I'd called my wife, and me and her had like a really in-depth conversation, and like we cried together, and I got back in my car, and I was actually driving out here, and I was like, man, I'd seen all those deer before, and I'd kind of like had these like little sparks of when we were under the medicine, I kept thinking about the deer. It's like my thinking brain was trying to make me think about the deer to relate them to what was going on, but it would just like pop in my head and then let go, and I never got anything from it. So I was driving, kind of headed out here, and I drive, and I'm like, man, it'd be cool if I could just like get some reassurance of the deer thing. Like that, I just wish I could see a deer right now. And dude, not even 10 to 15 seconds later, I'm driving and I look over, and there's 3 deer in this dude's front fucking yard sitting out there feeding. And I was like,
hey, you wanted an answer?
yeah, there it is.
Not that it tells you what it's all about, but that's what Tyler's for.
Yeah. I was like, okay, here we go. I'm like, yeah, it just.
Yeah, it's protection. It's spiritual protection. The deer, the elk represents protection and like holding up the spiritual realm.
Yeah.
The antlers is like antennas to the heavens above.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's super weird because sometimes it would be a buck I would see. It would be, but then it was other times it was like, I don't know, man. It was like that day, that was the weird. I was like, holy fuck, dude. And I was like, because I already knew this is crazy. But I was like, that example right there solidified it, like, to a point that I couldn't, you can't deny it. You can't deny some of these things that are going on like that.
Yeah.
Know? But, getting into the ceremony we had, we started off and Tyler was kind of talking to me and we were talking and he knew exactly like when it really started like hitting me. And it wasn't long after that, I couldn't bring myself to speak. I was like, my mind's never been in this place ever, nowhere close to where it was. And I couldn't talk. And
I knew that. I knew I had asked some questions prior to us even starting ceremony, and I wasn't getting like an answer that was, and it wasn't your fault.
Well, you were kind of getting like a teenage high boy answer.
I need like a fucking specific answer, and I'm not getting it, even though I've taken a couple routes to try and get it. And so it was like, okay, fuck it. David, do I have permission to introduce my spirit to yours? We're going to go into the magic pouch, and we're going to go the spiritual realm. And I think, everything was perfect because it was a great introduction to starting the ceremony. But because I could see how functional you still were, we were going to be doing a lot of talk therapy, which was going to help you shed a lot of your dark shit, throw it into the fire, and transmute it. However, I also was aware that we were going to hit a block, that as soon as your consciousness got to this certain point, there was going to be no breaking through. And that's when I was like, I knew that you wanted more medicine.
Yeah, and it's weird because we're sitting there and I'm staring at the fire, and I was like, okay, like I'm in a place I've never been before, but I was like, I want more than this. I was like, I was talking to myself. I'm like, I didn't come here for this, for what I'm sitting here feeling right now. I was like, I come here to go. Like,
you needed to go deeper.
I needed to go way fucking deeper than what I was sitting in that moment right there staring at the fire. And as soon as I had processed that thought, before the words could leave my mouth of like, hey man, I think I might need more than this, Tyler offered me more almost immediately. And without me ever speaking a physical word, it was like, you want some more, don't you? I'm like, yeah, sure do, man.
Yeah, dude, you told him.
Yeah, I told him
without words.
Yeah, and dude, that continued on for the next hours. I was like, I don't know. I didn't talk to you for hours.
No, you weren't at that point, you weren't capable. And
no.
I didn't want, it was all for a reason, right? I don't want you to be able to try and speak, because when we're speaking, we can't go inside.
Mm-hmm.
We're already just delivering shit we already know. The only way to learn is to be silent and listen.
Mm-hmm.
And so it was like, David has to get to the point where he can't actually keep a thought long enough to deliver it out.
Yeah. Yeah. I feel like that's what it was. And I was like wanting to speak. But I just couldn't. For whatever reason, I was like, my mouth will not open. And kind of like you were saying about him like banging the bones and like the environment getting like more cranked up,
waving a fucking owl wing at you.
Yeah, bro. Like, so I get, I take some more, and it was a lot. And it was like, when I felt that really taking a hold of me, immediately he started cranking the environment up. It's like that at that point when I was like, ooh, I was like, okay, this is about to get, and I knew at that point, I told myself, I was like, this is about to get really bad. And I was like, okay with it. But I was like almost challenging it. I was like, we'll let it get fucking bad. Let's see what happens,
Is that when you were looking at the skull?
So he's got that your dog's skull on that post of that little tent. And so he had started playing his drum. And dude, I swear to you, whenever he was playing the drum, the fire got hotter and the fire got bigger. And I was like, I'm sitting here thinking, I'm like, let's fucking go, dude. So I start staring at that skull. And it was like the skull was talking to me, and it was telling me, like, can't hide. You can't hide no more, man. You don't have anywhere to run. You're here, and you're in it. And there's nothing you can do to snap out of this. You're going to be in this for the long haul. When then I started challenging the skull, I was like, I don't give a fuck, dude. Bring it on. Like, give it to me. And he's like, nah, is that what you want? Because I'm about to give you what you want. And like, we were having this just like back and forth. And I was like, fucking just give it to me, man. I fucking want it. Like, I come here to get broke the fuck down. Break me. Please break me. Well, it fucking did. And, so soon after that, I started having this mantra in my head. I was like, I just kept asking myself, like, why? And I was like screaming it inside of my own head. And Tyler's doing a bunch of stuff, but it was like he would do things and I would recognize it, like fanning like the owl wing and stuff. And I would recognize it and recognize that he was like bringing the tempo of the world up to me. And I started asking myself, I was screaming to myself. I'm like, why, motherfucker? Like, and I almost didn't to a point know why, what I was asking why. I didn't know what the answer I was trying to get by screaming that word to myself. And I felt like I sat there and just screamed it for forever. And then, dude, it was like a bubble popped. And, I told Tyler and his wife, and I think you this, like, I do still to this day, like, I've got some, like, I kind of still believe in God as like a Christian God, but I really don't buy off on like the Christianity practice. It's a weird like interpretation of how I view religion. So I do believe in like a God and a devil, but I also believe in like good energy, bad energy, all, all of it kind of just woven together. And dude, it was like just my heart was just racing and my thoughts are racing. And I'm like, why, motherfucker? Like, why? And then I had like this bubble pop in my brain. And it was like the next sentence that registered with me said, why? It's because the devil himself knows how many people that you're going to be able to impact and pull away from him. And that's why he's put everything in front of you to keep you in this dark place your entire life. And that's why he wants to keep you in that place. That's why. And when I told that shit to myself, I was like, it just made sense. It was like I had nothing that ever made more sense to me in my entire life in that moment. And I was like,
so you're saying you feel an evil force is keeping you diminished because of the amount of good you have to give. Evil doesn't want that going out.
Yeah, he's like, man, I got this motherfucker. And it's like, I've got him right where I want him. And I've got to keep him here by giving him all these things he thinks he wants. Women, validation, drugs, alcohol. Like, I can keep him here with these things. And I have to, because the voice that he has to send out and the message that he ultimately has to send out is going to pull so many people away from me, this evil thing. Like, I can't have that. I don't want a person like that out spreading the word of like good. I can't have that. So now I have to give him all of these fucking things that keep him on this low plane to make him happy and, happy. And I have
keep him caged.
Keep him caged.
Chained and bound.
It's like, I've told my wife too before, I'm like, I just feel like there's hooks in my back and I'm trying to climb a wall, but I can't pull the hooks out. It's like I'm inside of a fucking wall and I just can't get out. I can't break out and all this shit, And when that bubble popped into my head, I was just like, oh, this makes sense.
You felt it, dude.
I knew it. I knew it, and I couldn't deny any of it. I almost, in that one moment, understood every bad thing that had happened my entire life. In that second, I was like, dude, all of that, it's okay.
You ain't keeping me down.
Yeah, I'm like, it's fucking okay. That's fine. You and I almost challenged it after. I was like, you want to keep giving me shit? Give me shit, motherfucker. Like, I'm not doing that anymore. Like, that's not me. That's not how I'm living my life. Like, but at the same time, like, all of the resentment and all of the just hatred and all of this shit, it was like it just come out of me in that next breath. I was like, because I understood it for what it was and I accepted it.
And there's also things that we're doing along the way that you're not aware of in that particular moment that I am aware of telling you what we're going to release, telling you what we're going to transform, helping you transmute this lead into gold and turning a victim or a scarcity mindset or a lack thereof into abundance, prosperity, teachings, and growth.
Yeah.
And so even though on like a real conscious level, you're not aware of that, we're going through it.
Yeah.
And like, it's a long process. It doesn't just, it's not like, hey, David, throw your problems into the fire and watch it transmute it into love.
Yeah.
It's like, no, that's what I'm telling you we're going to do. And that is what's happening. But you're not aware of how it happens in the process and how long it takes and what is actually going on.
Mm-hmm. So,
well, bro, and if you had told him that, like, it wouldn't hold the power.
No.
As with you drawing that conclusion.
Yeah. So, whenever I put that together, and then that's when my eyes opened, I felt like, and I was like, holy fuck, man. I was like, it was like I just went through a Rolodex of my entire life of all this just fucked up shit. And I was like, it's okay. Like, I'm like, I get it now. It's okay. And so it was almost like I had let go of just that resentment in that one moment. I was just like, I get it. So then after that, and not trying to Tyler's got that's a nice spot that you've got kind of laid out back there for something like that. But it's like you can kind of walk one way or walk the other way. And I stand up and I'm like, almost in my brain, I'm like, oh, I'm good now. I'm cured. And I'd made it up in my brain that, like, if we're standing kind of where his fire pit is, that to the left is like this good, prosperous forest over here. That's what I was seeing it as at the time. And that to the right was just this dark, black, like hell. Like, that was the hell forest. And I was like, ooh, I don't want to go that way. I was like, I'm good on that way. I need to go to the left, to the good. Like, I need to start getting on this page. So I started just, meandering, tripping over my fucking self, basically off to the left to the good forest. And dude, something stopped me in my tracks and was like, you better go turn the fuck around because you ain't ready for this. You're not ready for the good yet. And I was like, you only think that you've been to the bad and you don't even know, dude. And I immediately just accepted it and turned around and started walking the other way to what my brain had deemed as like the dark forest. And it was kind of funny, because he's got like kind of a path laid out. And each step, it was like I could see the trees closing in on me, and they went from green to just black. And everything was black and just evil. And I kind of walked down and I found this like one tree with like all this brush around it. And for whatever reason, I'd made my mind up like that was what I needed to challenge. So I'm standing there, and by the way, at this point in time, I'm crying. I've got snot pouring out of my nose, and I've got drool coming out of my mouth. Like I felt like animalistic in that point. Like I was nothing off limits physically wise for me. And I'm like challenging like this tree, and I'm just like going back, and I started asking why again. And I started like in my head screaming at this tree, and I'm just and the tree's like black, and it's like engulfing itself and all of this stuff, and I'm just challenging. I'm like, why? And then I was like, I remember asking it, I was like, motherfucker, you think I can't handle this? Like, I can handle this. Like, I'm good right now. And while drool's coming out of my mouth. and it was like, in my head, it was like, well, if you're good, keep walking and see how good it gets. And I'm like, okay, fuck you, I'll keep walking. So I keep walking. And I got to this point, and Tyler's got another little trail cut out, and I had tunnel visioned on that trail. And I had made up in my mind, I was like, that's the darkest shit on earth down that trail. And I was like, let's go. Like, that's where I want to be. That's where I need to go to get this shit. Like, let's fucking go. And dude, before I could take a step, Tyler put his hand on my shoulder. And I was like, it scared the shit out of me, obviously.
This was a big lesson for me, because I wasn't with you that whole time. Mm-hmm. And one of the things, as I've gone to all the ceremonies in different countries and been traveling around and learning, I truly feel that freedom is important for us when we are going through this process. For me, as soon as my freedom gets taken away, I understand what it's for and what lessons it does teach me. But ultimately, I want to be free. Now, we have to have some guidelines, which we went into. Yeah. But at that time,
you can't go in Tinsley's room.
Right. And you're not going to cross you're not going to get
cross
out
property
of this
boundaries
and out in the public. So I was by the fire, and I remember sitting there. I hadn't seen you in a little bit. And I'm going, okay, I'm deciphering between a thought and a knowing. Do I need to go get him because I want control? Or do I need to go get him because he needs me? And I fought that for a little bit. I put some more wood on the fire, sat there, and then it was, I'm just going to go check on him because I can't see him in my view anymore. And I had walked around the corner, and I had seen you fighting the tree. And I was like, okay, he's good. I went back, and then I got this overwhelming feeling of I need to go check on him. And I get up, and you're no longer at the tree. And I'm like, oh, fuck, he ran down the path or something. And so I'm barefoot, smashing through the fucking woods. And I see him, and the lesson that I learned from that is that I needed to use my voice way ahead of touching you. Mm-hmm. Because that scared the shit out of you. And, and it also scared the shit out of me. Yeah. Like, as soon as I touched, your face, like, what the fuck? Which then I take on that energy, and now I'm in that again. And so I immediately just wrapped my arms around you and said, it's me, it's Tyler, it's going to be okay. It's going to be okay. And we held each other, or I held you there for a little bit. Mm-hmm. And then I said, hey, you can be free, but I want to go 2 corners back. Yeah. And you go, why? And I go, well, because when I run a ritual, I create a portal. And for the people who want to leave their dark shit and want to get healed or help heal, the portal is the best way for us to do that. And right here, we're wide the fuck open, out in the open. And that's why you're in the dark woods and your heart's racing 1,000,000 miles an hour and you're in 100% animal instinct mode. Mm-hmm. I said, you see that over there? Those are different homes over there that are not on the same frequency as us right now. So you can do whatever you want. Let's go back 2 corners. Yeah. He goes, okay. So I walk him back 2 corners, and then I ask him to sit him down. hey, David, can I sit you down? Yeah. I said, okay, I'm going to straddle you. I'm going to get on your back and I'm going to put a seatbelt on and you're just going to fucking relax. And I sat there and sang to you in your ear and loved on you and fucking let you melt for, it was a while. It was long enough. You're a big motherfucker. And I remember sitting there like I needed to like get hooks in and roll onto my shoulder, but that wasn't the right position. I needed to stay upright. And then it was like, well, fuck it. We're just going to have to deal with that. And then I remember.
Was that also a subconscious element of security?
Mm-hmm.
Or a conscious element of security?
Yeah, for me.
Well, also for him. That's what I'm saying.
It's for him. It's for him to be, he's in a dark place right now.
Yeah.
And most us men are, when we get into that real vulnerable place, we're not used to another salt of the earth, savage man holding us or picking us up or giving us love until we can get back on our own feet.
Yeah.
We're used to being kicked fucking down. So we never want to show weakness.
Well, and I think this was before we started recording. If not, it's going to be redundant. But we talked about how you needed it to be a savage.
It had to be.
To share ceremony with you or to administer ceremony to you.
Yeah.
And for that reason, because like, if he had to control you either physically or emotionally, and he's just a little bitch, the wild animal in you would be going, fuck that little bitch.
Well, and I think
right? Like,
I would have made my mind up like, I'm not going back 2 fucking corners, man.
That's what I'm saying. And now
I'm
what?
going that way.
And now what?
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Well,
who's to say?
No, now maybe you have to fight in the woods.
Yeah.
And I remember thinking that.
But because
Like
that
when you
option,
said why and no.
because that option's on the table, it actually puts both of you at ease. It's not the contrary to that.
Mm-hmm.
Because like I told you, me and Tyler had that same understanding of each other. Like this may go south and it's not going to be pretty, but we both understand that. And because we both understand that, we can both be like, oh, okay.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And like, bro, like you're a 260-pound power lifter that wrestled your whole life. You're a problem.
Fuck yeah.
If you decide to be a problem.
Mm-hmm.
But that doesn't intimidate him either.
Yeah. And that's.
So it's what makes it work.
Yeah.
And because I was in that mind space under 10 grams of medicine, I can kind of conceptualize it. It's very remembering is very different than when you're in it. Mm-hmm. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
It's a different,
oh, yeah.
It's trying to recollect those feelings and then speak them in the English language is very difficult. Mm-hmm. But I guess what I can say is I can appreciate that feeling because I felt it to be necessary too.
Yeah. And just to, like when he had told me, see, I kind of made it up in my mind a little bit different. When he told me like there's evil shit down that path and we don't need to go that path. In my own brain, I'd made it up to be like, if I mentally go down this dark path that I've just decided on is where the darkest shit on earth is at, I might not come back from that. So maybe he's saving me mentally and spiritually. He's, he thinks he's physically saving me, but in my mind, I'd made it up to be, he's keeping me out from completely going in the deep, like the deepest place someone can go.
Well, and who's to say physically or spiritually aren't the same? Because, bro, and this shit happens under high dosages of hallucinogenics sometimes, where you do just decide the devil's in that house and you kick it in and you beat somebody to death.
Yeah.
Nothing good. You want to talk about taking your life down a darker path?
Yeah.
Hey, you just did.
Yeah.
Congratulations.
Yeah.
The messages that the medicine was telling you as you were walking down there, they came true.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know what I mean? That's crazy.
What a shaman is for.
Yeah.
It is.
That's what a shaman is for.
Yeah.
Is because I get to walk the realms. Mm-hmm. I know what's on both sides. I've been as far as I can go both ways. And at the end of the spectrum on both sides, isn't that fucking cool? It's being able to walk having our dark shit, coming here and kicking ass and fucking smoking a joint and being a human being while also trying to do good and make the world better.
Yeah. So after that, when Tyler told me to go, he's like, sit down. And I'm like, I didn't even have it in me to argue with it. I was like, okay, you know. I sit down and, you know, he straddles me. And I was telling you about this the other night. And I thought about this, and I'm about to say something odd that I feel like a lot of people won't understand, but I feel like some people will. So he's like, man, just melt, just let go, like loosen the fuck up, just go, and it was at that single point in time I was like, I can trust this dude. I was like, I can trust this dude, because I don't think I'd let go of not 100% trusting you until that second. And I was like, I'm gonna trust him. So it was weird. I closed my eyes and I could see, and this is this is how I know that this isn't the first time we've lived a life. Mm-hmm. I could see Tyler swimming me off of a boat onto a beach. Like I had been drowning and he had grabbed me out of the water and was backpedaling me to the beach off of like a sinking, burning boat. And I was like, I can trust this motherfucker, dude.
Is he part of our fucking Viking?
I told him, I was like, I could just, I could see it. And so when I led into that and I was like, you can trust him. He's saving you, you know, and I seen that and I was like, okay. So then my eyes were closed and I put my head down and it was just black. Well, and then it was like anytime I would creep my head up, I could see the brightest light I'd ever seen in my life. And, you know, for further reference, about 3 or 4 years ago, my mom died, you know, and she died the same way she had lived my whole teenage life. She never got over being an addict and never got over anything. She had some really, really bad mental health problems.
Did you guys ever get any closure in her existence leading up to that?
Not in her physical existence, because I feel like in that moment right there was that closure. And so he's like holding me and I'm like, and I look up and I just knew it was my mom. And I was asking her, I was like, why? Why did you do this to me? Why did you do all those things to me? Like, why did you make my life turn the way it turned? Like, you know, like I was a kid. Like, why didn't you just take care of me, you know? And I heard her say, she was like, David, I was sick, man. Like I was just fucked up and I was sick and I'm sorry and I love you. And at the same time, Tyler, I'm bawling, dude. I'm crying. Probably one of the hardest I've ever cried in my entire life. And I could hear Tyler in my ear saying like, it's going to be okay. Well, I could also hear her voice simultaneously, like it was almost coming out of his mouth saying, it's going to be okay. Trust this dude. It's going to be okay. You're going to be okay. And it was like all that resentment that I had held for that woman, for the shit that she had kind of like put me through when I was a kid and needed something and somebody, it was just gone. I was like, okay. And then in that moment, he was like, hey man, stand up. Let's go back over here. It was like he knew. You got the closure. I got it. It was like he knew in that moment I got it. And I'm going to say this, and I'm going to relate this back to kind of, you know, especially people from where I'm from. If they listen to this and, you know, they're big on the Christian train, I want people to think about how God used Jesus Christ. God used Jesus Christ as a vessel to speak the word of God, did he not? That's kind of what the Bible is about, in a way, at least parts of it. And I thought about this, and I'm not saying that in any way, shape, or form that Tyler is Jesus Christ. But is that not what kind of happened in that moment? Is that a person who is not of this world anymore used a person, Tyler, who is of this world, as a vessel to speak through? And like, I didn't feel like Tyler was holding me anymore. I felt like my mom was holding me. Is that not kind of what took place right there?
Well, bro, me and Tyler have talked about this a lot, is that and I know Christians probably hate it when I say these things, but what if Jesus was just a person that tapped into the power when nobody else was able to? So now everybody's saying that he's a God.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe he just understood how to be a vessel.
Maybe he was just a man, that someone that not of this world was like, there's something about this man that I can use. He's a vessel.
Mm-hmm.
Do you remember what my intention was?
No.
My intention was to be a vessel.
Yeah.
To channel from the guides and the gods and the elves and all the elements and all of my spirit people and that I use to help me relay the information to the best of my ability, to help serve David to the best of his ability, to help him lead the most beautiful, loving, blossoming, thriving life he can.
Mm-hmm.
I got my intention. You got your intention.
Yeah.
Because when you speak your intention with emotion and like will behind it, that's what we create our own reality.
Yeah.
Well, and bro, you told me the other day when we hung out in here for a while, you're like, dude, it wasn't like, oh, hey, I'm really high on drugs, so I feel like my mom's here. He's like, motherfucker, she's there.
I could hear
like,
her voice.
I know the energy of my mother, and
Yeah.
she came back and was fucking there.
Yeah, because here's the thing is like, you know, my mother dealt with her own demons her whole life, obviously. But there is one thing, like I would go and see my mom, and this was after I'd moved out and I got with my wife and everything. When my mom would hug me, it was different. And it's something I've always remembered is her hugging me. Like there's sometimes I could just feel it. And in that moment, I was like, this is the same thing. This is her comforting me through him. And it was just like, and then it was like immediately when I got that closure, it was like we kind of come back to this world as best we could. And Tyler's like, hey man, let's go over here. And we went and sat down.
Back to the fire?
Back to the fire. And then what kind of preceded that was, I felt like there was a lot of people it was almost like I'd forgiven myself the first part of the thing. But it was like I needed to forgive some other people. And I needed to like confide to other people through that experience. And it was almost like every time that Tyler would grab an implement, whether it be a drum or bones or an owl wing or whatever, and he would like speed what seemed to be the entire world up, I would start going down a different path and dealing with those things. And then it was like as soon as like my mind was so, racing so fast, and then I would just deal with it and let go of it, he would stop. And
it was synchronized, huh?
It was very synchronized. It was synchronized to the point where I was just like thinking to myself, I'm like, what the fuck is going on? Like, this is the craziest fucking thing I've ever been a part of. And it was after, like, I'd kind of like sat there and I'd talk with my wife and I'd talked with my kid without ever, still not saying a word. And I talked with my dad and all this other shit. And I was like, I just let go of all this shit. And it kind of got to the point after that, it was starting to get dark. And this has been a, pretty long time at this point. I was like, that's when I started putting the pieces together of how my entire life and how your entire life and your entire life had all led up, and all of these little actions and all of these other things had led me to that point right there where I was always supposed to be. I was like, and it was really and I was telling Tyler, I was like, dude, this is blowing my fucking mind.
Because he was
sitting
there. He was sitting there by the fire, and like he said, it was starting to get dark now. So he, I had handed him like a drum and stuff, and he was weighing shit out. I could tell he was processing. Once it started to mellow down, and he came back and sat on the log, and he was sitting there, I can see him get aha moments, because he was still quite emotional.
Mm-hmm.
But then now it's like in his emotions, I can see where his bubble pops or his dot connects. And all of a sudden it's like no fucking way. right?
Yeah.
And so I remember watching them a couple times have a few aha moments. And I remember thinking, now's the time I'm going to ask, David, how you feeling right now? And he looks at me and he goes, my fucking mind's blown, dude. Because that's when all of a sudden you started getting all the downloads of everything has led up to this exact point.
And it was to the point where it was like, I feel like that this moment had been in the works since before I was ever born. Mm-hmm. You know, and that was just really hard for me to get a hold of. I'm like, dude, it was always meant to be this way. It was always meant, like, you were always supposed to get fired from your fucking job and start a podcast. Mm-hmm. You were always supposed to walk into this gym and you two become as close as you are to where you felt comfortable enough to have you on his podcast. It was always meant for me to agree with like the shit that you were saying and then hear him later on and be like, well, what's he talking about? And just be like, and just all of these little intricate things. It had just become so clear to me at that point in time. I was like, this has been in the works for forever. Like, how is this happening? How am I fucking here? You know, because, and I'll say this because a normal person like me, like a year or two ago, would look at someone like yourself and be like, dude, that's unattainable. Like, and it is kind of surreal for me to be sitting here right now because I've seen like kind of what your path has carried and where your life has gone and stuff like that. And like the people you've got to meet and all this shit. And I'm like, man, but there was something in me that was like, that whole time that was like, man, I just feel really drawn to those people. And like when you would talk about like this community of people you guys have around, I'm like, and this is years in the work. When did you start this podcast?
3 years ago.
Okay. So 3 years of me being like, man, I just seem like I want to like be friends with those people.
Yeah.
You know? And it was just like, I always and like I would listen to you on someone else's podcast and I would be like, man, like I just feel so drawn to this group of people. And when I say group, I mean you and like the people at this gym. And then like,
and bro, like again, to go back to like weirdos popping in, right? On one hand, some people think that sounds kind of strange, right?
Yeah.
But on the other hand, like, bro, we're drawn to some people and then we're repelled by other people. Mm-hmm. And that's human interaction. And just because we're separated by space doesn't mean like you don't feel the energy of those people.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
And bro, it's like you just said, a lot of the guys that I got to meet and hang out with, like Glover and Andy Frisella and Andy Stump, guys I can text now. I used to listen to their shit and follow them on Instagram just the same. And then a moment of my life changed all of it. Mm-hmm. And now I consider them friends. It's not weird at all. It's how it works, bro. And you said that the other day. You're like, bro, I know. And you even prefaced it like kind of like, I know it might sound kind of weird, but it's like, I just feel like a lot of the guys that I invest my energy in, I think you did mention Andy Stump.
Yeah.
And it's like, I feel like if I were to sit down at a table with them, we'd get along.
Yeah, it'd just be like this. Like we're like us three are sitting here
and
right
I'm
now.
here to tell you, it's the exact same, bro.
Yeah.
Like the good people that want to affect change and become better, and we're drawn to each other. And because of this, i.e. my fucking recording board, we're able to put the tentacles out there and connect with more people.
Yeah.
And that's just what this is, dude.
Yeah.
And it's fucking weird, but it's using modern technology to connect us with the right people.
Yeah.
And it sounds like this was determined thousands or
that's what it seems like.
I want to attach time to it, but in that realm, there's not time and space, right?
Well, we're
just connected somehow.
I'd had that thought. We were like laying there, and I was kind of like looking up at the sky, and I was like, man. And you know, Tyler, I kept telling you, I was like, dude, I feel like this has just been in the works since the beginning of time. Mm-hmm. And I was like, how is this? You know, and I kept questioning it. And I'm like, how is this possible that us so far removed, so far away, I'd never in that moment been more comfortable with another person. And, you know, and especially like when we went inside your home after that, I was like, dude, this is the most welcoming. Like, I feel like I've known these people, like your wife and your kids. I was like, dude, I just feel so comfortable here. I was like, I feel more comfortable here than I do at my own blood's house sometimes. Like, I'm like, I feel like this was always meant to be.
I would say you're 100% correct. From my standpoint, this is all the way that it was supposed to be. Because when we follow our heart, there's destiny. And like we talked about, there's karma and there's fate. I mean, there's fate and there's destiny, which is the same as karma and dharma. And fate or karma is the things it's out of our control. We have to deal with it. They're teachings. Whereas dharma is our destiny, and we were destined to meet each other as long as we were willing to follow our heart. If we were not willing to follow our heart, I would have never had a podcast. I would have never started jiu-jitsu. I would have never met Greg. You would have never flown out here or called me.
Yeah.
You see what I mean?
Yeah.
But as long as you follow your heart, you are destined for whatever your sole purpose is.
Yeah.
And you want to know what's interesting is you had a profound change on the 8th, right? And you said you were able to shed a lot of darkness, kind of give people forgiveness that needed to be forgiven. And you went through this transformative process. My wife met you on the 7th and was like, that dude's one of us.
Yeah.
With all your shit inside
I just didn't know it yet, man.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, no,
that was already there.
Yeah. It's just
that's crazy.
And this is the thing too, and I felt like, and I'd mentioned this to both of you before, I'd tried to contact Tyler probably over a year before and never heard back.
Wasn't the right time?
It wasn't, dude. It wasn't. I mean, you know why? Because like I thought I'd hit rock bottom. I thought I knew what rock bottom was. And, you know, and this is coming from a guy who has had a needle hanging out of his arm, who's slept in his fucking car and done all this shit. And I was like, man, I thought I knew what rock bottom was until I did. And I was like, this is rock bottom. And the day that I knew this is as low as I'll ever get was the first day me and him spoke.
Yeah, dude.
And it's like, dude, I don't care what anyone I don't care what anyone thinks about when you know, and you know, and you know, and I do now. It's like some of these things can't just be ignored. Like a motherfucker can look from the outside and be like, well, you're going to the crystal shop. It's like, yeah, dude. It's like in things like you're going to fly out and you're going to fly how far and stay with some dude you've never met before and just let him like be in. It's like, yeah. And I don't know why, but I'm fucking going to. And I'm telling you right now, dude, like that was the most important thing I've ever done in my entire life. There is not another moment in time I would put ahead of February 8th, 2024, because now I feel like by no means, I don't feel like I'm like done going down that path, like not even close, but it started it.
Yeah.
And it started another path and it started another way. And this was something I told Tyler the other night, like after I'd really dealt with a lot of shit, he's like beating his drum and I'm like looking at this other tree and I kept getting this like mantra of, this is the way, David. This is the way, not the other way, man. The other shit you've been doing is not the way. The path you've started now, this is the fucking way. And it was like, I bet I said that to myself 100 times. Like, this is the way. Yeah. And I started putting all this shit together and I was like, this is the fucking way, dude. Like, this is where it starts and this is where it begins. And this is where I can start like taking just a shit story and morphing it in to something else.
Yeah.
Like, but it had to be this way. And it's no knock on other people that have these other ways. Like the way for me wasn't sitting in a church pew. It wasn't all of these other things that I've done. It wasn't this or it wasn't that. It was like, it was this. What we're doing, what he's doing, what he's learning, and how you both are able to put it out to the world. And it's like, I would just tell anybody that feels receptive to it to not think that, I think sometimes like people listen to others on podcasts and they're like, they make them into larger than life figures because they have a fucking podcast. When in all reality, we're just dudes. We're just three dudes sitting here talking into a microphone, and I feel like we'd be talking the same way without the microphone.
And we did for 2 hours on Friday.
Exactly.
I'll tell you this, bro, and I just had this realization, and I bet Tyler, I'd like to hear your opinion on this. This is part of your integration, dude.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? You sharing your story was all part of what was supposed to happen, because there's another motherfucker out there like you.
Yeah.
And maybe it's one, or maybe it's 10,000.
Yeah.
Who knows, right? But this is all part of it, dude. And it's always going to be weird to a certain extent. You know what I mean? It's because
we live in the web of weird.
Yeah, that's right. Because it doesn't make sense. We always want everything to make sense in our logical thinking brain, you know? But to add to your point, like what you just said, like, hey, I ain't, by no means am I done. Like, oh, I made it.
No.
Purged my shit, and now let's go live life. I'm good. I think, and it's cool to hear that. Tyler has given me my blue belt in the realm of spirituality, right? So I feel like I can kind of, in jiu-jitsu, you can kind of, at blue belt, you kind of see what's going on. You're not real good at it.
You can start working with other people.
But you can see what's going on, right? And I feel like for you to acknowledge that is the same as like you said, this is the way. That doesn't mean you made it. That doesn't mean you're even too far on the journey, but you saw the path. And it's like if someone were morbidly obese and you sat down and said, bro, dude, chicken breasts, vegetables, start walking every day, get sun on your skin. And you laid out this path for them, and they said, roger that. And they threw all the shit out of their fridge and they put in the right stuff, and they wake up every morning and they start walking. That's the way.
This is the way.
But just as easily as walking down that path, at any time, they can turn left and go grab a fucking pizza and a 6-pack. And just bleh.
And go
right back to where you were.
Yeah.
And me and Tyler have talked about this a lot, because plant medicine, that's it. It's putting you on the path, but it's up to you to stay on it.
Yeah.
Because you hear about the stories of people. I've done ayahuasca 211 times, and it's like,
are you a shaman?
That's
No. Then what have you been doing?
Well, you know, at what point is this now just a new thing? I just want to be put on the path. Motherfucker, you're on the path.
Yeah.
Now you have the discipline, or now you just need to have the discipline to continue walking it.
Yeah.
That path is the endless endeavor.
Yeah, bro.
That is the path.
Yeah.
It's the one that's all day, every fucking day, from the time you wake up to the time you go to sleep until you're 6 feet in the ground.
And you know what else, dude? And I just thought about this last week. I smoked a joint and I was in bed, and this is where my thoughts start to have those bubbles, right? I have more bubbles, as you put it.
Yeah.
And I was like, you know what, man? Because I watched the President Biden speech, and then that same night I watched the President Vladimir Putin speech, which I'm not going to give my thoughts on that because that's not what this episode's about. But go watch that.
Yeah.
Go watch that, right? But my takeaway is like, man, all of these politicians, particularly in the West, are always like, I'll give you this. I'll make this better. I'll make your life better here. I'll make your life better there. And I was like, I don't want a better life. I want the right amount of pleasure and pain. I want to keep having my ups and downs. I want to feel like shit sometimes. And then I want to be happy as fuck other times. I want to feel hate sometimes. I want to feel love sometimes. Don't try and sell me this path of good and happiness, because that ain't life.
Yeah.
The path of life is the endless endeavor, and it's a fucking roller coaster. And once you accept I'm on the roller coaster, I think that's when you can be a little more grounded in your reality.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, just embrace a little bit of pain.
Yeah.
And it's just like, and that's why I think like the gym, like you were saying, was your outlet, or jiu-jitsu's my outlet, because it kind of paints that picture in the 3D realm right now, right here. We feel it, where I got to go fucking grind. and this motherfucker caught me in a triangle and it pissed me off. And I dealt with some adversity and I'm angry. And as I'm getting in my car driving home, I know I'm better for it too.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's the thing too, is, and I'd kind of started this practice like a while back. I'm like, all those years of just like being super negative and just like letting everything be shit because I was making it shit. It was like, I didn't realize like, hey man, if you want to get better and you want to do some cool fucking shit, like you're going to have to fucking really get after it. And I only thought, to certain points, I'm like, well, I am getting after it. I'm doing this. Dude, no, I wasn't. I was, and I told my wife this, the other night we were on the phone. I was like, hey, I would honestly like to get to the point where I don't have to use like training in the gym as like an identity thing. Like I want it to be a tool that serves me. But for a lot of my life, that had been my identity. Like, and I think I'd built myself up to a point where I was trying to build myself up to keep people away. Mm-hmm. And I'd literally made that my identity. And I was like, and I would think
your shirt literally says the lone wolf on it.
Yeah. Yeah. And I was like building that up. And it had gotten to the point where I was like, I'd made it up in my mind, like, well, I'm training fucking hard and I'm doing all this shit. I'm doing hard shit. And I was. But it was easy to me now. So it wasn't hard. You know what's hard for me, to take into practice is like, I'm going to go fucking clip out 2 miles right now, and not fucking quit the whole time. Like, so whenever I decided to like, okay, I'm going to start going down that way of like, I'm going to look in adversity of like, I don't like doing these fucking things and they're hard and they're going to suck, but that's what's going to make me a better man. And it's going to propel me. Whenever I kind of like latched my mind onto that, the world become a lot more clear, because just as much as like, I don't enjoy running 3 miles and I make myself do it because it's hard and it sucks. You know what else sucks and is hard to look at is leaving your fucking family and flying 2,600 miles out to a stranger's house. Mm-hmm. When you're scared to fucking death of what's going to happen and how it's going to go. It's like that, while it's physically not hard.
Yeah, it's emotionally hard.
Emotionally the hardest thing I've ever done. And dude, I would just really recommend that anyone that's even like teetering back and forth with that, like just submit to it. Just if you really think, and I think the world and the universe, God, whatever you want to call it. And I also think that the psilocybin itself will tell you when it's time. Mm-hmm. I feel like it really told me, it's like, now's the time. Your time is now. If you think that's your time, just let it be, man. Just fucking. And I would really recommend as a man, if you've lived like a hard life, like all of us have at some point, like the amount of shit that's went through the three of us, ours eyes and brains, it's a lot of fucked up shit. If you're a man that's drawn to that, I would really recommend, and I'm not sitting here just like blowing smoke, like I would recommend that you get a hold of Tyler, because like we've talked about before, this couldn't have been with some over the top loving, like some of these people you see on like these ayahuasca retreats.
Yeah.
Like everyone's like fucking 120 pounds and their hair's long and everyone's smiling. It's like, I don't know, man. I just
you needed fucking stones.
I did,
bro.
Man. I didn't want someone that was so that didn't really know where I was coming from to be in any kind of control of that.
I am fucking just listening to you now, having this epiphany that's like, bro, Tyler, your mission is probably to bring spirituality to motherfuckers.
I agree with that.
I agree with that. I know that 100%.
Like, yeah, you know,
Stones and Bones is two things. Stones and Bones is here for the warrior's death. All of us who have had this identity and essentially we are killing it off. You killed off your old way. It was just darkness to let us truly blossom into who we're supposed to be. It takes somebody like me to get guys like you to be able to do that. If I was anything less than what I am, it won't fucking work.
I agree.
So I, too, have to stay on this path. I must continue to train jujitsu. I must continue to fucking work and farm. You see me back there?
Yeah.
I'm barefoot.
Yeah.
I have dirt in my fucking toenails. I got chew in my fucking teeth. I'm a regular human being.
Yeah.
I'm not above you. I'm not superior. I'm just like you. I just happen to be a shaman. You're just like me. You happen to be a master at jujitsu. I think there's something with that, because even for me, I wouldn't feel comfortable doing this if I didn't have the skills, the physical skills and attributes that I had.
Yeah.
It would scare the living shit out of me.
Well, and think about another thing to think about is like 25-year-old Tyler. Think if you were to fucking attend your ceremony as that young wild animal.
I would have learned so fucking much, man.
It would have had to be a motherfucker, though.
Oh, yes. Yes.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, otherwise I would have tried. I'd been like, fuck this pussy.
Yeah.
I'll throw a rock at his head.
Yeah.
Well, fuck, man. Part of me is wondering, like, what's next, but that's not even a question I can ask because nobody knows.
No.
And, I know your brain's probably been racing all fucking weekend.
Well, and the thing is, it's like, and this is another piece of it. Like, I quit my fucking job to come out here and do this. I quit my job. I took what was left in my savings account to come out here. Like, when I go back, I'm probably going to be stripped down to nothing, if not a lot. I do have a home. I've got a wife and kid, and we've got fucking food, everything.
You're not, go home and starve to death.
Yeah, no. But I am having to start over.
Rebuild yourself.
And dude, I wouldn't have it another way. I felt like every piece of it was just like me starting over is a piece. And I honestly don't know what I'm going to do, like, when I get back. But the thing is that was one of the things that was keeping me from wanting to come out here. I was like, what am I going to do? What do I do now? And now it's kind of just, I'm just like, whatever.
Yeah, you're at peace with it.
I'm like, I'll figure it out. The universe is going to give me whatever it wants to give me, and it's going to give it to me at the pace that I can handle it, and I'll figure it out.
Fuck yeah.
Welcome to spiritual jiu-jitsu, brother.
Yeah. Can I just recommend something before?
Yeah. Let's wrap this up. We're a little over 2 hours, but that's what I was going to ask you. I want you to give any final thoughts, recommendations, where to contact you, and then as always, I'll put your shit in the show notes. But this is an episode where you're going to be getting contacted from people. Yeah. Because a lot of motherfuckers are where you were 72 hours ago.
Yeah. This was your story.
Yeah. And I would encourage anybody to, like, first off, if you're at the point of wanting to take your own life, because all three of us have been at that point, and we all know what that feels like, just don't. There's something out there, and everybody's different, but I truly feel like you saving your life and all of these things, like, it's not through prescription medication. It's definitely not at the bottom of a fucking bottle. It's not leaving your family and your kids and your wife alone. Like, and I'm saying this specifically to men. Like, stop emotionally killing yourselves every day. If you're at that point, the time is now for you to turn it around. And I really, really would recommend anybody dude, if you've lived that hard life and you've fucked up and you think that you're just a piece of shit and you're this and that, like, first off, you're not what you did yesterday, 10 years. Like, you're not that person. You're a new fucking person today. And you can get better and you can make everyone lives around you better, but you're going to have to fix yourself. And fixing yourself is hard and it's really fucking scary. And I know people sit there and they think, like, well, man, like, taking a bunch of fucking hallucinogenic mushrooms that's scary. Yeah, it is fucking scary. And I'm going to tell you what, like a lot of that experience we had the other night was not fun for me.
Yeah.
But it was important and it was needed. And I would really recommend that, if you're listening to this, you're obviously on the same kind of mental page as all of us are. Just get a hold of me, get a hold of you, get a hold of Tyler, just fucking do it, man, because it's the best thing I've ever done, and I've never received more clarity from a 24-hour period in my entire life. And it's like, we as men need to stop fucking other men over all the time. We need to stop demonizing shit like this. We need to stop demonizing men having feelings and emotions. It's like, we just beat each other the fuck down so bad all the time because we have this preconceived notion of like I was saying earlier, well, you better get a job, you better work hard, and you better fucking die. That's not what life is. I'm sorry and if it is, man, but I don't feel like it is. And I feel like that we need to stop looking at people talking about the things that we've sat here and talked about for 2 hours as crazy, as pussies. I don't feel like anyone sitting at this table is a pussy.
Well, if you think we are, come find out.
It's like, stop it, guys. There is more out there than what you see on Fox News. There's more out there than what your dad and your grandpa beat into your head when we were kids, man. There's a way and there's a path for us to make each other better. I've gotten better from you from knowing you for each less than 48 hours, and I'm already better for it, and I'll continue to be better for it. And we can use each other as other men as tools. I can use Tyler as a tool to make me better. I can use you as a tool I can use all the people in this gym and this community to make me better. But yet we're so fucking scared to ask another man for help. We're so fucking scared of what someone's going to think. Well, you've got to go to you need another man to straddle you in the woods to make you a better man. Yeah. So fucking what? As long as I get out and now I'm a better man and I can do what a man does and make the world a better place and be a good father and a good husband and a good friend and a good leader in my community, I'll let fucking Tyler piggyback me around the woods. I don't give a fuck. Mm-hmm. Stop putting all of these fucked up societal things on yourself. Just let go of it. Reach out to somebody. I would, if you've lived that life, like I said, I would really recommend that you do reach out to Tyler, because that's not the last time that me and Tyler are going to have that experience again, because I'm just now starting that, and I need more so that I can be better each and every time. But guys, if you can't let go of your own ego and be vulnerable a little bit, you're not going to get any better, and you're not going to be better for yourselves, and you're not going to be better for your kids or your wife or whoever else you need to be better for. And that's just perpetuating shit that doesn't need to be spinning around our world as fucked up as it is anymore. We need to get our shit together. We need to get on the same page. We need to lift each other up and make each other better, and stop not asking other men for help. It's so fucking 10 years ago, I wouldn't have come in here and rolled with y'all the other night. I wouldn't, because my ego would have been so built up of man, I'm not, fuck them. I'm not going in there and letting a bunch of dudes beat my ass. I'll beat their ass. Not going to happen. You've got, it's not going to, man. You have got to let down your fucking guard and your ego and just be vulnerable for a little bit, because I can guarantee you at the other end of you being vulnerable and letting other men work through you and make you better, you're going to be better. And then you can start being a GregAnderson for your community or a Tyler Stanaway for your community. But you're not going to do that sitting on your fucking phone being envious and hating everything and not training your physical body, training your mind, and just being a complete package man. Like, there's nothing wrong with being big and strong and violent, but I really feel like if you're going to be big, strong, and violent, you also need to be vulnerable. You need to know how to like forgive and how to love other people so that you can be part of something better and make the world better.
Fuck, man. Well, I can't fucking wrap the show up better than that, dude.
No, that's fantastic.
And two things come to mind that I do want to put out. You should start a podcast because your voice is powerful, it's authentic, and it's real, bro. And I want the three of us to do Stones and Bones someday.
I'd already knew that was going to happen. And guys, if you want to reach out to me, like, I haven't had social media in any capacity for years, but I do have an email I check every day. And my email is DCHAT, like Tom, MAN 6609 at Gmail. Dude, if you just like,
reach out to David.
Yeah, just fucking reach out, man.
And I'll put that in the notes.
Yeah, just fucking reach out, dude, because this is nice and this is good. And what we're doing right here is making the world better because you guys are making me better. So now that I can be used as a vessel like you are and you are to make other men better so that we can get back to how it fucking used to be, to people like,
yeah, dude,
that shit right there, dude. We've gotten so far off track from just being men, real fucking savage men. And it's because, you know, we're scared. We're scared, we're ego driven, and we're material driven. And that's not the way, man. It's not, dude. But what we're doing right here, I feel like is the way.
Fuck yeah. Well, dude, I appreciate you coming out. I appreciate you sitting down and doing this. And I have no doubts this is just the beginning, man.
Yeah. Thank you guys. You guys have done a lot, and I really appreciate both of y'all.
Fuck yeah, brother.
Yeah, thank you.